We're going to get started. Open the meeting at roughly 7:03. Our first agenda item is the EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant and Revolving Loan Fund presented by Cook County Department of Environmental and Sustainability. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for the trustees.
Trustee Bell?
Here.
Trustee Brewer? Here. Trustee Grant? Here. Trustee Brzezinski? Here. Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Lee? Here.
Okay. Again, we'll start, Maggie Jar is chairing this, on Maggie Jar, and good evening, Maggie. And if you want to introduce, or... Yes, it is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, how about that? Oh, I hear it. All right, we're in business. So I'm going to turn it over to Cook County to kick off the presentation, but I'll be chiming in a little bit later. So Jessica, you want to take it away?
Sure. All right, test. Oh yeah, you definitely can hear me. Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Jessica Schumacher. I'm with Cook County Department of Environment. I just got started in this grant program, but I wanted to come here and introduce myself, as well as just thank you all for having us today. So thank you, Committee of the Whole, and thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a little background on how we got started here. In 2014, Cook County Department of Environment was earned a $751,000 grant, and we basically took that money. It was from the Brownfields program. We assessed a whole bunch of sites in the west suburbs, and so we want to apply a similar model here in the south suburbs. We turned about, I would say we assessed 15 sites, and then 6 of which are either redeveloped or are currently being planned for redevelopment, returning about over 100 jobs to the community. We want to do that here. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to my friend Jack here. He'll describe all the details. I'd just like to say, give us sites. We got the money. We want to help you guys. I'm just so enthusiastic and glad to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jack Eskin. I am from Delta Institute. We are a partner to Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability on the Brownfields Assessment and Revolving Loan Fund project, assisting with public assistance and public engagement, and sort of expanding on what Jessica teed up. We are going to talk about the grant program tonight, a little bit of basics about brownfield redevelopment, and sort of kick off request for getting input on additional sites to include in the project to help advance economic development and redevelopment.
That mic is not working.
Okay, can you, needs to be, is that better? Okay. I'm not usually accused of being quiet, so, but we've already heard from Cook County. You'll hear from Maggie later. You'll hear from me. In running through this, we'll talk about the program goals, connect it with some of the redevelopment planning and land use planning. Is that better? Bend it? All right. Is that good? Yes. All right. I will assume this posture and we'll go from there. Connect it with some of your ongoing and active economic development projects and land use planning here in Sauk Village. We'll go over the brownfield redevelopment process, talk about some of the details of the assessment grant and the revolving loan fund, and talk about how you can provide input for potential sites to include in the project. So, as Jessica mentioned, this initiative had been undertaken in West Cook County with a number of municipalities out here. This round, it's focused on South Cook County, and Sauk Village is one of 3 participating at this phase. The overall goals of the program is to use these environmental assessment and cleanup resources to advance and promote economic development and redevelopment, particularly in communities that are dealing with a lot of vacant and underutilized lands.
So while Jack is talking about what the goals of the program are, I just want to take a moment to link it back to how the program, the Brownfield Assessment Grant Program, can help Sauk Village achieve its vision for the future. And so I've highlighted here just a handful of the goals from our comprehensive plan that can be advanced through the work through this grant program. So this is a great opportunity to support stabilizing vacant and underutilized properties, attracting commercial and industrial development, increasing opportunities for new jobs and housing, improving open space and increasing access to recreation, and of course enhancing the tax base. So I just wanted to take a moment to pause and look for those connections between our own goals as a village and the goals of this grant program. And here are just a couple images from the comp plan showing our existing land use and our future land use. And I asked Jack to include this slide just so we could highlight that given the planned expansion of industrial and residential areas, that this sort of environmental assessment and cleanup resources will really be an important tool in driving that sort of development in the future.
So taking a step back and talking about the brownfield redevelopment process and how assessment and cleanup sort of works into that, it really starts with the phase that we're at right now, which is site selection and site prioritization. Once sites are identified for a variety of reasons, economic development potential, future land use, things of that nature, we enter into the investigation stage with the phase 1 and phase 2 site assessments. I'll be talking about that. And then it would move on to the next stage where the project for remediation purposes would be enrolled in a state program, and objectives and planning would be done around getting it ready for cleanup. So there's the assessment grant portion and the revolving loan fund portion. With the assessment grant portion, Cook County has been awarded $600,000 to essentially fund phase 1 environmental assessments, which tend to be more like desktop research, doing analysis on historic aerial maps, where former gas stations were, where former dry cleaners were, to identify the possibility that there might be environmental contamination on site. And then doing a phase 2 where you're literally taking soil samples from the ground to test in the lab and identify the presence of different chemicals. These activities are going to be 100% funded by the grant. It's obviously great if it can match other sources, as we'll talk about, but I think an important thing to comment about this phase of the process is, typically environmental site assessment is something that developers do if they're doing a development project anywhere. So it's a great opportunity to reduce the cost and liability for a development project and undertaking it from scoping into completion. On that, the whole benefits around brownfield resources is to reduce the amount of risk for redevelopment throughout the phase of the project. When you're undertaking a redevelopment project on a former site that maybe used to hold some form of development, you don't know what's in the soil, and that might be an added cost and added risk to a developer. And so with these environmental site assessment resources, it's about identifying what the state of it is, which is taking uncertainty away from it. And then with the cleanup loan resources, it helps basically reduce the cost of cleaning up that site to get ready to build on if there is contamination in the soil. So on that, the revolving loan fund, Cook County was awarded $751,000 to basically issue low or no interest loans to developers to help fund cleanup, which can be payable at sale or from the tax revenue. The process is largely going to be a partnership between the Department of Environment and Sustainability, along with the Planning and Development Department around management and oversight of the RLF. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. And the administration of the loan, and with coalition partners like Village of Sauk Village at the table, any potential projects that come through the loan application process will be reviewed by not only those county departments, but also members of the coalition to identify whether it's a strong potential recipient for a loan. The process is, as you see it up here, a property is selected, a loan application is submitted, the eligibility determination is undertaken, cleanup happens, and then there's an administration record profile, property profile development, and project closeout period to wrap it up. As part of this process, the project gets enrolled into a site remediation program. This involves development of a remediation action plan, undertaking of the actual remediation itself. There's a reporting element to it, and it all ends with essentially a no further remediation letter being issued by Illinois EPA, meaning that a site has been cleaned up to a particular standard and a development project can move forward. There's reporting and matching funding requirements attached to it, which we can provide more details on. Largely speaking, for 2020, the goals are to identify 40 properties throughout these 3 communities, get access agreements with property owners, conduct 15 phase 1s, 2 phase 2s, hold community meetings like this, and potentially enroll, we're identifying 4 properties into the site remediation program. So one of the big goals for Sauk Village is currently we've got 1 site identified, and so there'd be a great opportunity to add more sites to the list in this community. The site that's included thus far is a big one, and probably one that would rise to the top of anyone's list, the Mark Collins site. 213 acres, it's zoned for manufacturing. It's got rail access, it's got highway access, and existing utilities and minimal environmental remediation from previous assessments that had been done. In addition, it is also in an opportunity zone and an enterprise zone. So it's obviously a really good project to involve in this program to help facilitate the redevelopment of it. Here's a site that you can see from the aerial. So beyond that particular site, what we're looking from you is opportunities to identify more sites to include in the program. Suggestions around potential assessment and cleanup projects based on the knowledge of where stuff used to be in the community, and being able to connect the program with potential local developers or property owners that are looking to do a new project, or just being able to comment on the site that we have identified thus far, what the opportunities and challenges are for that. So our contact information is available here. We'll be at the back. We've got a number of materials to share on the program, and certainly are available for follow-up after today, but we see this as a really great resource for advancing redevelopment in the community, and are looking to engage more with where those opportunities for deploying those resources are. Okay.
If there are any thoughts from board members now on potential sites, be happy to discuss, or if you would like to follow up with me after the meeting, we can have a conversation about it then.
I just have a couple of questions. How long is the money or the loan or the grant available? In other words, is there a deadline for application submission?
So the grant is 5 years long, and we're taking loan applications today. So basically the loan would be granted within maybe like 6 months. And we would expect, I mean, all the details in terms of like interest and payment would have to be figured out by our Department of Planning and Development. But needless to say, if you have questions and you want some answers ahead of time, we'd be glad to ask them.
And I just wanted to know, I mean, if we get someone that's eligible for it, or, you know, a need for that, do they have a certain deadline that they have to meet? And you did say that they don't cost, but now you're saying that it's...
So we haven't decided yet if, for municipalities, we do no interest for the loan. But as for like a private developer, we want to do a competitive interest, so it's
Okay.
low interest. So we haven't decided that because we actually, to be honest, we
Not-
haven't issued a loan yet.
Can a private owner use, and I know someone's here from that, TIF money for the, I guess you would call it down payment or match or whatever it is? I mean, if they're in a TIF area, is a TIF eligible expense?
We would have to talk to our department of environment as well. We would have to talk to our department of environment. At this point, I'd say there's no funding that's off the table, I guess.
There's no?
There's no funding that we wouldn't consider.
Okay.
So I think what you're saying is a creative funding.
Well, I'm just wondering, like you said, there's no cost for municipalities, but if it's a private owner within the TIF, and our TIF people are here, so I know they're listening to everything we're saying, that's a question that they can, you know, probably get back with us, but I just wanted to know because that may be a question that may be asked in that area. And basically, if it is in a TIF area and it's not owned by the village, is there a cost to the private commercial person that's involved? That's the only thing I just wanted to know. And then also, is there a minimum amount of space, in other words, that you would do? If it's only an acre, is that?
No minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's qualified as a brownfield, and a brownfield is a very loose definition. It can be anything from an abandoned gas station to an empty field where you don't know what's wrong with it. So the purpose is to pretty much spur redevelopment in the area. So there's no limit to the size of the site, and I think the only thing that we exclude, of course, is Superfund sites, but we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff here. So.
Okay. And our contact person will still be Maggie?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to know if you just wanted to make sure, I mean, because when we get these, and I'm sure we're going to, and they're going to clean up, and now, do they dredge or do they just clean up surface?
So it depends on the site. It varies. So a good, for instance, that we have right now is the village of Bellwood is interested in doing a site for them, and what they're doing is they're going to probably use a concrete path, and so that's going to be the driveway, and it's going to actually be a home. So they'll do the concrete path driveway for the first floor, and then build the home on the second and third. So it can vary. They can remove the soil, but that's pretty costly to do because that soil is contaminated, and that costs a lot of money to take it to a landfill. So a lot of times you get a little creative with the solutions here.
Maggie, as usual, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have two ordinances that we're going to discuss. The first one is the municipal code regarding rental inspection, the adoption of that.
Our office did put together a inspection ordinance for point of sale. And the village is a little bit limited due to the fact that you're not home municipality, but the provisions we put together for you are kind of similar to.
Can't hear him.
Okay. I'll talk louder. The provisions we put together for you are what you see in similar non-home rule municipalities. Essentially, you put together a program where you're doing property inspections and that they're required when property is being transferred or sold within the village. The interest for the village for these inspections is to maintain their housing stock and to prevent decline of property. So that's been found by Illinois case law to be a legitimate interest that supports putting forth these types of programs. However, though, you do also have to balance the interest of the property owner rights. So that's why there's some limits to the provisions, but I think you'll see, if you put this program together with other tools that the municipality has, it does give you a nice way to keep an eye on municipal properties and try to make sure that the village property maintenance code is being enforced. So essentially what happens is when property is being transferred, this ordinance puts property owners on notice, and as well as title companies and other companies that are involved in real estate transfers. They're on notice that this program is in place. So once they're moving towards a closing on property, they realize that they have to get a inspection done by the village. The ordinance sets forth how the inspections are done and who does the inspections and what areas that are covered. Once the inspections are completed, the village will give a list of potential repairs, if there are any, that need to be done to the property. Property owners then have time to either complete the repairs so that they can be approved for the property transfer, or there's an option where if the buyers of the property are going to do the repairs themselves, they have to sign an agreement that sets forth the timetable, or number one, that they're going to agree to do the repairs that were found, and that they're also going to do them in, we have it at 90 days, which is kind of generally what you find. So that's kind of essentially the inspection process. The other tools that the village has to kind of make sure that this program is enforced is, number one, issuing, this would be a village ordinance, so if someone violated it, you can issue ordinance tickets. And then additionally, you always have your property maintenance complaints that you could file in civil court, and in order to try to get administrative searches for properties if someone won't consent to doing the inspection under the ordinance. And if a court can order administrative search of the property, and then the village can follow up after the inspection through a court order to then potentially issue ticket violations or property maintenance violations. So that's kind of the entire program and some of the other tools that you would have. We've been working with the village to put this together, so I don't know if there's any comments or questions or changes to the ordinance. We can continue working with you.
Okay, but this is something that's new, and you said that you did work with community development director in putting this together. Was this done by just your office?
We put it together, and then I did get some comments. So.
Just recently, I asked you some questions. I didn't know. I think you would issue.
Okay, because this, okay, because before this never was, this particular ordinance was never brought, we never had one. So this is not an amendment, this is actual ordinance.
This is a new ordinance.
New ordinance, correct.
We can't hear anything being said.
Can you hear me now?
No.
No.
But you answered.
Not funny either.
I'm just saying, if you answer, then you obviously can hear me. But
Turn it
I mean,
up.
if I turn it up too much, you get a reverb. That's what I'm saying, you get a reverb, and I have it up. Pardon me?
You just have to speak into the mic.
But she said she couldn't hear me.
Yours sounds like it's a little farther away though. It's not real close up like usually.
Okay, we'll try to speak up louder, but if I turn the microphones up any more on the amp, then you'll hear a feedback. That's what I'm trying to say. But what I was asking, so you were able to, okay, you in conjunction with Trustee Jazinski came up with this, correct?
Correct. So I have a question. In regards to both ordinances and the fee amount. So the fee amount is $75. I just want to know, how did that number come about?
That's what we saw for other towns, and it's supposed to just be reasonably related to the cost to actually do the inspections. You're not supposed to be essentially making a profit, but it's just supposed to cover the costs associated with the inspection. So if we just have to be able to support whatever the fee is. That's what costs the village is
And I think now, I don't think we're making a profit now either, because I think that the cost is, I want to say $300.
That fee that you're talking about is the inspection, the inspectors, we don't make any money off that. The $75 that you're inquiring about was an ordinance that was passed.
Use the mic, please.
Sorry.
The $75 that you're inquiring about was passed by ordinance. They increased the fee from 50 to 75. I believe Trustee Todd, I don't know when you did that. It was before we got in. So that's what the $75 is. It's just an admin fee.
Okay, so you're saying that, okay, because there is a payment of $75.
Yes.
And that's absolutely right, that's the administration fee. Is that per inspection or for the whole inspection? In other words, if they have to inspect the electrical, plumbing, roof, and heating and air conditioning, is each one of those 75, or that 75 cover all four?
No, the $75 is an admin fee that the village receives for filling out the application. What would happen is, that's how it always been, even with the $50. It was a $50 fee. They went out and did the inspection, and then it included one re-inspection, and then if they failed, they would have to pay the fee.
But
again.
is there a fee per inspection?
Yeah, that's,
Okay, because here it says it includes the original inspection and one re-inspection.
I think what it's saying is it's $75 for the admin fee. If the inspectors go out and they fail it, it includes one re-inspection. If the inspectors fail it the third time, they have to pay the village $75 again.
But is there a fee to inspect the electrical? Separate, say for instance,
They would have to hire a contractor.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with
No.
that's what I was.
Yeah, the 75 is just like the admin fee.
It's just
that the-
administration fee, because here it's stated that because people may think that includes my inspection, and that's what it says here.
No.
It says it includes the original inspection and one re-inspection.
Yeah, so when the inspectors go out and they inspect, they give Ms. McCoy a copy of the inspection, I'm assuming, and then they make the repairs, and then they get called back out. If they fail the second inspection, they have to come back in and pay the $75 admin fee for the village, plus do the inspection with the inspectors. I don't know what they charge.
Okay, right.
They're separate.
Yeah, they charge separate.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure the person that's renting it out would probably be the owner.
And Trustee Todd has that ordinance.
And so, and that's what I'm just wondering, is it, if they come for an inspection, I don't want them saying that, well, that included because it says here, $75 payment includes the original inspection and one re-inspection. Any additional re-inspections are required additional $75 payment. that makes sense. But I'm just looking at, I don't want them to feel that if they get an inspection that is covered under this ordinance, and it's really not, it's not covered under this. They have to contract whoever they get to do the heating, search, and everything for that reason. That's the only thing that I have a problem. That's what I'm asking.
So can we add some language that says $75 administrative fee or something to this? Because that's how I read it as well. I thought it was $75 per all the inspection. I was like, that's kind of low.
Yeah, or I can add plus any additional inspection fees, you know, if any, language like that where they realize where it's clear that it's not just.
Well, it's 75 for original plus one, and then the second or more is another $75 per inspection after that, right?
Right.
So I think we can add that because this makes it more clear. Because I read it, and obviously I read it wrong, but I just don't want anybody else to read it the same way I read it.
Okay.
And I do have another question. So I noticed in both ordinances you mentioned a village hearing officer. Who would that be?
Okay, so we set it up for, the biggest problem with the housing committee is with the investors. They wanted an appeal process. And by law, I believe by law, they should have the appeal process. What that came up with is they would give a written appeal to the clerk, and the hearing officer would be the adjudication court. They would go in front of the hearing officer, and then the hearing officer would determine if they have a valid complaint or if they don't. It takes the village out of it, like myself, or, you know what I mean? It's somebody that doesn't know anybody, so there won't be no accusations.
So I would add that as well as the education officer, that's not. Doesn't it say that?
No, it says, so they have the right to appeal the inspections. They have the
It
right
just says
to
a
appeal
hearing
the
officer.
village hearing officer.
But you're saying,
But that's okay, I mean, because if we know that the hearing officer is going to be the adjudicator, then that doesn't have to be, because the hearing officer in actuality would be the village adjudicator.
Right. I can add adjudication in there.
It's up, you know, it's up to you.
it's just semantics, but I mean, if you want to if you want to add it, fine. I mean, it's clear, absolutely. And then I think the last question I had was, so on the single-family home inspection ordinance.
We didn't get to that.
We're not there yet.
Just doing this one first. Are there any more questions on the rental inspections, the way it was written? And Matt, you did look at those items that you're going to change, so. I hope we can get them before, we got to get them before we vote on it. Anybody else have any other questions on the rental aspect of the municipal code?
If you look at item B, and it says the inspection of the following components of the unit, heating, cooling, electrical components, plumbing, and roofing, are these now being done by independent contractors, or is this still being done by one inspector?
You said item,
You said item, which,
where the rental?
That's the single-family home?
No, we're not on that.
Oh, okay.
Where the
Because I
rental?
was going by what you were talking about, this other part there. Okay, so these on the rentals, what you're saying is when it comes to the fees, you're going to change to says administrative fee for the $75? That's what you're going to change it to, Matt?
Yeah, I can add, yes.
And then in addition to any other fees from other inspections?
Well, we don't have a contract with those other inspectors.
No.
They
Right, we
charge,
don't.
Right?
Right.
That's what the mayor indicated.
No.
Okay.
So they charge whatever they charge, we don't have anything to do with it.
So with the single-family homes, we're still going with that one inspector that charges their own fees? That's what I want to make sure.
Both the inspections go with
Okay,
that.
okay.
So I don't want to, okay, we're still with rental. So, I mean, and Matt, you were talking about the change. It's just that we need to make it clear that it's, the $75 does not include an inspection, you know, on behalf of, it's an administration fee. Well, you don't even have to say that. Your village officer,
but I
who will be the,
think we should add it because, I mean, if
Oh,
I was
okay.
a resident, I wouldn't know who that is. Who's my village hearing officer, right? I would just add it just for clarity.
Do we have a list of the inspectors that they're certified
Microphones, please.
The inspectors that we currently use were chosen because they were already on the list with Sauk Village when they started the program, so they chose the 3 home licensed inspectors that were currently listed with the village.
Are there any more questions on the rental aspect of the municipal code? Okay, now we're going into the ordinance for the municipal code regarding single-family home inspections.
All right, yeah, so same policy on this one as far as maintaining the village's housing stock, as opposed to inspecting property when it's transferred. This would be for rental property when they have a change in occupancy. So again, there would be a requirement that they contact the village, have an inspection done, and there's provisions here about requiring or providing access to the village. If that's not provided, again, the village could go to the circuit court for an administrative search warrant. And then once the inspection is completed, they can provide a list of any ordinance, property maintenance ordinance violations, if any, and those would have to be addressed by the property owner. So I think that's essentially the concept there too, just monitoring property that's being rented within the village in order to ensure that it's safe for any occupants.
I have a quick question. On this one with the recommended changes that I see, are you aware of this? That this was presented to us with recommended changes. This never came before the ordinance review, this one. Okay, this one that was presented has gone through ordinance review and we agree with it. So where did the recommended changes come from on this ordinance?
So the recommended changes, again, I was not a part of the process as the Director of Community Development. So when I got the ordinance, I recommended some changes. Those changes came after you reviewed it because I was not aware that you guys were reviewing it.
Did you get a copy of this ordinance when it was, before we even got it?
I think Sherry said that she sent me a copy, she may have sent me a copy, but because I'm the only basically person in the department that's doing all of the work, I didn't get a chance to really look at this. I wasn't aware that this was really going forward, and I would have thought I would have been more a part of it, but I wasn't. And so I didn't look at it, and I didn't know it was going forward until I got the ordinance.
Yeah, I provided the ordinance to the mayor and Ms. McCoy on November 8th, and I didn't hear anything back from either party. So I presented it to you. I did send them a copy of the verified email that was sent on November 8th. It was like at 3:30 in the afternoon. I did keep that and I did forward that to them.
Okay.
Okay. My question is, and you're right, Trustee Todd, and you said you was never given this, but you were given the other one in the original. I'm asking the lawyers now, is there a problem looking at this revised or recommended changes before we go any further, that you can look at that and review that and then give that to also and look over it with, to make sure that it's done, the recommended changes appeal and apply to this, and then give it to the Ordinance Review Committee at that time. Because we can go back and forth all the time, but if you see something on here and you see it that it's here, maybe we can expedite things and let you look at the recommended changes, and then if you see some back and forth, then you can contact, or don't have to if you think that they're okay, and then give those to the Ordinance Review Committee, and then we can go forward with that. And I'm sure that shouldn't take that much of a time.
But it really should also go through housing.
Well, I
They're
mean,
the ones
once he looks at it, then yeah, we can do that too.
That, and then go to the ordinance review.
We can look at that too, and then go to the ordinance review after you've looked at it.
I'm sorry, can I just make a quick comment on that too? I think the other thing that transpired last week is that, I mean, we had to meet with attorneys about a pending lawsuit. And I think some of the discussion also stemmed from some of the changes we need to have related to that pending lawsuit.
Right, we do.
So that's part of also, I think, why we weren't as timely as we should with the revisions, but I think some of this also stemmed from that.
Okay, that's why I want to do it right the first time, then rather keep going back and forth. And these recommended changes, the lawyers can look at them and say, okay, then they can give them back to the committee. And then if the committee has no problem, then we can go forward with that. And that should only take, that may be another meeting.
Absolutely.
Realistically, the changes that Ms. McCoy gave us are very minimal. I mean, they're just, the way they're stated, like community development instead of the building department. I think that these changes can be made. And I think we need to vote on these. It's been 2 months that we've been working on these ordinances. And I've looked through Ms. McCoy's changes, and I have no problem with making these changes to them. She did make one comment on the inspection process where on Section C, inspection procedure certificate of occupancy, or if there is a change in tenant for rental properties. That's listed under the rental ordinance. It has nothing to do with the for sale ordinance, so that doesn't even have to be a part of this ordinance. It states that in the rental. But I would like to see Matt change these and get them to us, and let's get them on the table to vote on it for next week. It's been 2 months. It's taken me. It's frustrating.
I understand.
Wait, so are we going to present these with these recommended changes? Is that what you're going to do? Because I think Trustee just that she was in agreement with some of these changes, because they're minimal.
Well, I just want to make sure, I wanted to go through the attorney to make sure that what is put in here is actually legal. And so we won't have any problem with that. That's why you have to look it over. And then after that, if he wants to give a copy, which he should give one to Trustee Jazinski, if it's okay, but he's changing or what's been changed. He probably may reword some things that maybe that you put into it, and then that's it. And then at that point in time, we can bring it and bring it before the board.
So will there be any more changes, recommended changes for the first one then, or is this one good to go?
That one's going to go from my perspective.
From your perspective, I mean. Well, besides the things that we talked about, maybe Ms. McCoy, whoever came up with the recommended changes for this one, are there any more for this one? That's all I'm asking.
And then the first one was just administrative.
I just want to know because, okay. So my question on this one is, so section, well, up to the top, section B. So I think Trustee Williams is going here. The heating, cooling, electrical components, plumbing, roofing. Have we done, is there anything else that needs to be added to that, or just those four we're sticking with? Are we just sticking with those 4 certifications as we always have been doing? Fire?
What item is that?
On the single family home inspection, letter B.
Oh, B.
Yeah.
I don't see the fireplace unless it's included under heating and cooling. No. Right, it's not there. Under B.
Oh, I said, you said you want to add the fireplace?
No, I didn't want to add it. I said it was in there.
Yeah, that should be added. I agree. Fireplace should be added.
Okay, that's for the
this is a single family home.
Single family, okay.
Yeah, and also I think, just now that we're thinking about it, I think we should add,
I also think that we should add this sprinkler system. Some of these homes have sprinkler systems in them, and we don't know if they're working. So, Matt, I think we should add that also.
Okay. I can add like fire suppression systems.
yes, please. And then I think that should help you.
So you're saying on C, you want, where it says change in tenant needs to be removed? Because this is, and then also further down, it says, or the intent to transfer ownership or change in tenants.
Yeah.
It doesn't need tenants because that's ownership, okay.
Yeah,
Because I'm on my own.
that specifically states that in the rental ordinance that a change of tenant or when it becomes vacant. So that needs to be removed.
And
And then
then,
the rest of the changes are very minor. I think it's not a problem to do it.
and one more thing, section B. So I guess I would just want to know who makes this determination. So it says the department may issue a temporary certificate of occupancy to the transferee if the unit is habitable. Like, I mean, we know what habitable means. I mean, I know what that means, but like, who is gonna like make the determination? Like, I don't want somebody saying if I have no heat, but I can get I'm just throwing it out there, if I can get a space heater, that's habitable, right? Who's gonna make that determination? I think that's really vague, and I think that something should be added to there to just kind of clarify what that really means. Because I feel like, I mean, I don't know how often that happens with the temporary occupancy groups, but not to say that we won't have one. Not to say we wouldn't have, no, I mean, it's possible. I mean, just because it never happens means it's not gonna happen, but we should be prepared in case that does happen.
Okay, so I'm sure that the different items are duly noted, so he's going to bring them back to us, and we'll go from there. Is there anything else? Well, one is already, the other one has to be changed. It depends on how it can be expedited. I'm sure that I don't even know when the ordinance review committee meets. Or do you guys need to meet for this? I mean, okay. All right, but then we can get this to the board between now and Friday. Because if it's now next week, then I don't want to hear that I only have one day to read. So if it's now and Friday, we can get it back, and then if there's you have a chance to make a change. If you see a change, we can do that. We have at least one whole day, which will be Monday. So we can get them between now and Friday. We can get them distribute it to the trustees, then we can go from there. I don't see a problem with it. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No, and I just have a quick thing. Also on this one, the single family, the fees, I think you're gonna want to put that as the admin fee on that one as well.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
The next item is the village administrator is going to present. The first item is Kane McKenna, and I think Larry Thompson and Chuck Norman here for that. You might take a time to your chair. We're not going to have you stand up while we sitting down. They've been here many times. So no, but if you want to, because I don't want you to walk in front of people. No, I'm just right here. Okay, I mean, but you want to walk and sit right here. Pull up the chair. Happy New Year.
So it's that time of year again.
Okay.
We're here to adopt the abatement ordinances for the bonds, so that the monies don't get.
Here we go.
We're here tonight, good God. We're here tonight to review with you prior to adopting the abatement ordinances for the bonds, the TIF bonds. So what that means is we have collected enough property tax dollars to meet our 1.25 coverage, to
meet our debt service plus the 1.25 coverage. And so we want to abate. We don't want to levy. And that's what these ordinances are for. So first of all, congratulations on that. TIF 2 and 3 is doing extremely well. Revenues are definitely there. We've got great clients there. And we, I believe, did some refunding and going to be doing some construction work there, reconstruction work, so that we can keep those companies there. So I'm going to pass these out and let you look at them. Thank you, sir. Yes, it is. This is the overview sheet right here of the debt service.
Yeah. No. Right, each one is separate. Each one is separate.
Here, Chuck. Here, Chuck.
That's okay.
So we have 4 abatement ordinances. Series 2002B, Series 2019A, 2019B, and 2019C. The amounts that we are abating, are next to those respective series numbers. That's what these ordinances say. So once you adopt them, we file them with the county so that the levy does not fly. So your constituents will not be paying those taxes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, this is 2019B. 2019B. That's what I have, 2019B.
I have 2019B.
Okay. I got 2019. Oh, shit. Okay, this is 2019C. This is 2019C.
This is 2019C.
That's all I have is B and C. You only got 2019B? Which one? What do you have right there? They need B. They need B.
Let's just get A and let's pass it. So we don't see it.
Well, there's that one. In sharing these things. And then all we need is 2019. No, I got that. We need 202. 202B. No, we need 2022B.
I have A and C.
You need what, Sharon? Sharon, you need what?
So when we're done, you should have 4 of them.
Oh, you do have D.
He just handed it.
So you should have all four now.
I got 2019A and 2019C.
Okay. And do you have 2019 B?
A, yeah, I got A and C. I don't have B.
You don't have 2019 B?
No.
It's a circus.
Oh, this is a circus.
None of the paper.
And then I got them all. All right, I got them.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you for your patience. I did. Please see.
I gave it.
All right. So does everyone have all four?
We got it.
Okay. All right. All right. There.
So we are going to be sending these to the attorneys for final review, make sure it's in the format that you utilize. But this is in fact what the ordinances need to say.
Okay.
And what we will need to adopt.
Okay.
We have to have them adopted before March, so that they can be filed with the county. I'm happy to answer any questions with respect to these ordinances.
And do you have any, does anyone have any questions on the four ordinances that were, they're pretty explanatory, I mean.
They make reference to the ordinances, the
But
original bond
you may have
ordinances.
questions. Does everyone know what the ordinances include? Right, that's what I'm saying, the new trustees here, so they may not even know what 219A, B, C, and 202 actually cover. So that's what I'm asking. If there's any trustees that have a question about it. Okay, that's what I'm asking. If you have questions, you need to invite
These are all for the Logistics Center and Sauk Point, correct?
All for TIF 2 and TIF 3.
TIF 2 and 3.
These are parity bonds. These bonds were done in parity. So if one bond, if one area doesn't have enough TIF increment, the other area will come and help, vice versa. So they are contiguous, and that's, the word parity appears throughout the ordinance.
So all four are very long.
All four of these ordinances refer to TIF 2 and 3, and they are parity bonds.
I have 2 and 3 are just Sauk Point and Logistics Center.
You are correct.
Real quick, should it include Will County, seeing as we don't have Will County?
Did we dispose of Will County?
Yeah, we're gonna have to change that because we.
That's fine. I
You
can
know,
do
yeah,
it.
when the lawyers look at them, we'll ask.
I'll do
We
it.
can, you know,
We had 2 parcels in Will County, as I recall.
We don't have any more.
Oh.
Yeah, we sold them
Oh.
finally after all these years.
Yeah,
Right there on Stager Road, where we.
I remember.
Yeah.
Do we know who the clients are, in TIF 2 and clients are in TIF 3? How will it find out?
Well, I'm assuming that permits were issued to them and that the village would have those permits. We are the TIF consultants, so what we do is establish the TIF districts. And when called upon to work with developers to help them get into the TIF district, we'll do that, but we don't always work with all, and plus they do change.
Absolutely.
Businesses are sold, businesses, you're not there.
Do we actually have a bond trustee or?
You certainly do. Amalgamated Bank.
Amalgamated Bank.
Mhm. So all of the TIF increment money is taken right off the top from the county and sent to that trustee for safekeeping for the debt service here. And then there's what we call a waterfall within that account. So the first part goes to the debt service and the coverage. We're a non-home rule community here, so we have to have 1.25 coverage, so we have 2.5 coverage ratio. So we've met that. So then it goes down to the reserve redemption account to make sure that that is stocked, if you will, to the point where the attorneys and the underwriters want it, which it is. Then it goes down to the administrative account, which is law. And assuming, now, this is all dependent upon monies being available. So we have a maximum amount of $250,000 that comes back to the village for administrative purposes, if you will, TIF administrative purposes. So you could use it for TIF implementation, those eligible costs. There's a final bucket, and it's a tough word. It's called the general account. You know, it gets confusing because you all have the general account. It's not the same one. It's the bottom bucket, and there was a redevelopment agreement with DP Partners, the original people that basically started the logistics center part. And what it is 90% of those monies go to them, 10% comes back to the village, if there's any money that gets that far down. Again, 10% comes back to the village to be used for
Can you all hear me?
No. Oh, yeah,
Barely. Oh.
Did we get a bank statement amalgamated?
We still can't get the trustee.
You do get bank statements from.
We do?
Yes.
Okay, so I noticed that.
Little louder, please.
Okay. I noticed that we generally get an analyst report periodically. We analyze and research analysis that we get.
Are you referring to our invoices, maybe?
I'm just going by, we spend $2,000 or $3,000 a month for analysis on something. And we don't get a report for it?
Well, if we're called upon to do a function for the village, and we have to research it, we generally say, if we were at the county, if we were doing PIN evaluations, and then we call it research. That's one of our categories.
Okay.
If there was something issued with respect to a response, we send that response to the person requesting it.
Okay, so it could be somebody in the village, like the mayor or the trustee or the economic development person.
For example, we're here tonight, and we will bill for this, you will get an invoice. But this is the report. There won't be a written report after that of this report. This is what we're doing for you tonight.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions in regard to?
I have a question.
Yes.
When was the last time we had a TIF meeting with all the other Jackson matters?
It has been, I believe, I'm wanting to tell you 2 years.
That's what I thought.
Now, when we have to finish the last ATR reports, do you have an audit? Okay. So the procedure would be to get the audit finalized with the TIF, and then they do separate TIF audits, year TIFs, because it's required by the act if you have 100,000 or more in cumulative increment. Then we'll call a meeting for you.
But there wasn't a meeting done last year?
There was not.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, okay.
In the
yes.
2-year period?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're working on that for this thing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a 2018 audit that has been done. A 2018 audit that was done.
Yes.
And give it to us?
Yes.
Okay, it was provided to the trustees?
Yes.
But we don't do your audit. We receive the audit to do the reports.
Yes, there was a 2018 audit done, yes. It was provided to the trustees. We're going to do a 2019 soon. Yeah, okay. All the trustees, as a matter of fact, that copy of the trustees at the time, yeah. Okay, any other questions for Kay McKenna? As she stated before, she's, I think she answered all the questions. So I just wanted to say thank you guys very much. As always, when we do get the TIF meeting scheduled, we will be contacting you, so we can get all the people that's involved in that TIF. They come on. You're not going to get all of the TIF properties or owners of the properties out, but you get representations of some of them. So basically, it's your lawyers and you guys and our lawyers actually come out. And then our finance director, which we don't have one right now, but we'll have someone that'll take care of that. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
And I forgot to say Happy New Year to you guys.
Happy New Year. Same to you.
This has to go before, this has to go before the lawyers. And once we get everything that they, then we'll put it on the agenda to go.
I will remove the word full council.
Okay, so then you're gonna send that?
And I will email the attorneys.
Okay, good.
These, they're always in draft form to them, so then they can finalize them or review them.
Correct.
And get back to you, with your vote date.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Good night, Chuck. Next item, I will think Lenny is here, in campus. So then we're gonna skip down to, is Open Gov here?
Yes.
I don't see him here. What is it? That's Open Gov.
Yeah. So as they're getting set up for the presentation, I'm just going to give some background information. So one of the things that I've been discussing or examining while I've been in my role is that we have fragmented data. In other words, that we have a multitude of different systems in which data is being captured. We have data for our code enforcement, for our tickets, for our finance, for our inspections. There's data all over the place. And the reality is that we don't have a system that is able to centralize everything, so therefore the corporate authorities as well as our departments and the village administrator can make sound analysis over the data and also monitoring the progress. So with that said, I've been looking into different companies that are able to better synthesize this data and then also have systems that allow us to build on the platforms. So with this, it also includes budgeting, and depending on how our fiscal situation is later on, we might even look into possibly including some permits as well. Actually, you all probably have already received this. I did have the opportunity to have several people, the mayor, the clerk, some of my senior department members as well, to be involved, and even a trustee to be involved when they actually were doing an online presentation, a little demo of their system. So with that said, I've asked them to come in and give some more oversight as to what they can present and how this could benefit the village as a whole. With that said, I'll turn it over to Alex.
Thank you, Chris. I'll be sure to kiss this mic while I have this presentation. So, like Chris said, OpenGov, we're really a cloud-based solution that sits on top of these systems and allows you to better budget, perform, and be more transparent with your citizens. My name is Alex Picard-Martinez. I handle the accounts in the Midwest. And I'm joined by my colleague Matt Cahill, who's actually out of our Chicago office. So I'll give you a little insight into what OpenGov looks like, and then he'll give you kind of a demonstration, in-depth demonstration on what it does. So the way to look at this slide is from the bottom up. You have all of the systems throughout your organization, Parks and Rec, Public Safety, 311. What OpenGov does is it sits on top of all of those systems and elevates and extracts that data into a centralized location into these three buckets. So first off, budgeting and planning allows all departments within the organization to collaborate and communicate during the budget process as it goes through its different phases. And then from there, operational performance allows you to aggregate all the data in a centralized location, measure performance, to cross-analyze the financial and non-financial information that's being extracted, into the system and really make better data-driven decisions internally that they can then translate to your citizens, which leads me to my following citizen engagement section in this, which allows you to be more transparent with your residents and give them the opportunity to see where their tax dollars are being spent and share meaningful stories and dialogue with them so that they're on the same page with you and you guys can go back and forth on different issues as well as strategic plans or capital improvement projects. I have a couple slides here that kind of go through each individually, but essentially it's an end-to-end budget solution that just allows for more collaboration, visualization into the budget numbers, the finances, and collaborating during that budget process. And then it allows you to do what-if scenarios, to really dig into the details of the financial and non-financial information that you have spread out through all of these systems that are siloed in nature that we bring together so that you can have it all in one location and streamline a lot of those conversations and discussions internally. And then lastly, as I mentioned, sharing all that information to your citizens in a transparent manner that is meaningful for everyone and easy to understand. Really quickly, our mission is to power more effective and accountable government. We are partnered with a little over 2,400 governments across the United States. I'll show you a couple that are in the state of Illinois, but we're only focused on the public sector and on government. We roll out weekly releases, bi-weekly releases to the product and the capabilities, so you're not paying for maintenance and upgrades. And most of those enhancements are coming from recommendations from our customer base, where they feel like we can enhance the platform to meet their needs. And we are the leader in the space in budgeting, performance, and transparency. These are some of the customers in the state of Illinois. You have Warrenville, Olympia Fields, Woodridge. We just partnered with Livingston County about a month ago. Illinois State Treasurer. So there's a lot of partners in the state of Illinois, and excited to have a conversation with you today and show you a little bit more in depth on what it is that we're doing and what we can do. And with that said, I'll relay the information here to Matt Cahill to present.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to walk through those three different buckets that Alex was talking about. Starting out with budgeting, I'll go through that pretty quickly and just show you just kind of what it looks like. So what you're seeing here is just one central area where department heads can come in and collaborate on a budget in a centralized location from initial requests to budget adoption. So we have the ability to break it out by departments in here. So just a quick view of that, and then I'm going to take you into the other two areas. The second being operational performance, which primarily revolves around reporting. So for reporting, we have both financial and non-financial. For financial, we'll tie into your chart of accounts to really understand your funds, your department codes, expense codes, etc. And that'll allow us to report at an annual level, summarizing all of your transactions, at a monthly level, comparing it to the budget that you adopted from the first screen I showed you, and also at a transactional level. So we can go as detailed as you want or as summarized as you want. The screen you're looking at here is actually our monthly budget to actual. So this is showing us our monthly expenses compared all the way on the right, which is the shaded graph, is our budget. So this gives us a cumulative view of how we're performing as a village, both expenses and revenues. So as I said earlier, we'll tie into the chart of accounts to understand those account codes. So what we're seeing here is our expenses broken down by department. So what this will allow your users to do is drill in on specific data, almost like an interactive pivot table. So if we went into public safety, for example, and we wanted to take a look at what type of expenses we have in public safety and how we're performing versus our budget, we can do that simply by changing what we're breaking our report down by. So you'll see here now I have public safety broken down by our expense types, showing salaries and wages, which we can click into further and get a breakdown of overtime, our general salaries, our benefits, etc. And below each of these, you'll see we have the detailed information in an Excel-like format that you can export. You can also click in at a transactional level. As we create these different views or filters, if you may, you can save these as views is what we call them, or a saved filter. So if this is a report that you're commonly coming back to and creating every month, You can save it in OpenGov, and it'll be there updated each month as new data comes in. So if we wanted to do this here, we could. Police department, expenses, by expense type. So now that we have that, it lives in these views you're seeing over here, which are common views that you may create on a daily basis. What we can do with that is then bring that over to what we have in operational performance is dashboards. So we're looking at city manager's dashboard. Now this is a collection of both financial and non-financial metrics. So you can see, what I just showed you, the monthly budget to actual, or you can look at some non-financial metrics and see how they compare, if you're getting results. So for example, we see our police department overtime spend down here and the police response times. We also have the ability to set targets to see if we're performing up to our standards. This is more of an internal view, so department heads who are looking at this, and you can look at this specific state view and know exactly what it means. But what we also have is an external view, which is what Alex was talking to, is citizen engagement. So if we go out into stories, this is an example of that external view. So we can show the public those same views that we created, that you can look and see that tile and understand exactly what it means, but you can provide some narrative around it. And now the benefit of this, as Alex was saying, is we can have unlimited users, and you can create unlimited dashboards, unlimited reports. And once you've created those reports, if those are something you want to share with the public, you can put it on your transparency portal. And this is an example of Woodridge here. So you can see they have several reports in here, and let's go to the monthly financial. And you can see maybe some common questions that are being asked, and this is the list of those views. So any reports that you find useful to the public, you can share on your transparency portal and communicate out to the public. Any questions?
How much?
I'll leave that over to Alex.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the most popular questions we receive, actually. So it ranges based on the capabilities that you're going to purchase within the platform, right? So it's anywhere from 40,000 to 10,000 for a village of your size, based off of the budget size of the municipality, right? So if the city of Chicago is going to have the same software, they're just going to be paying substantially more because their budget is higher. For the village of Sauk Village.
Can't hear you.
For the village of Sauk, it'd be anywhere from 40,000 to 10,000 on an annual basis, depending. Yeah, yearly.
So the whole one, that 13,000, what is that?
Yep. So I believe that one that you're looking at is for the management reporting, the financial integration with your accounting software, as well as the performance dashboards and transparency. So you get the performance as well as the reporting that Matt is showing you, and then you have the ability to share it on your transparency site like the Village of Woodbridge is doing. And then we also have that integration tied in with your Civics system to pull that financial data in on an automated basis, so you don't have to manually upload it, and those reports are automated on a nightly basis for you to see.
So we can get a monthly report, well, a bi-weekly report, or it has to be monthly. We can get a monthly report, or can we get a bi-weekly report? Yes, I noticed up there you said monthly financial report. So can we get a bi-weekly?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. I mentioned bi-weekly earlier on in the conversation, and that's more so around the product enhancements to the solution that are rolled out by our product team. So those come out on a bi-weekly basis and rolled out to our entire customer base. In terms of the views that you're seeing, and how often you want to see them, you can create a monthly view, a daily, bi-weekly.
So it's live in the system depending on how often the integration we set up with your ERP runs. So if it's on a nightly basis, you're seeing live transactions each day.
So the user won't be able to manipulate the data?
That's correct.
No, what they'll be able to do is create different views. So if they wanted to create, a quarterly report on their expenses for their specific department, they can create that report and they can create those specific views. But no, they can't manipulate the actual transaction.
So the actual data that we get in can be used for the annual audit that we generally have to do every year?
Yes.
and it's accurate, yeah, that way.
Yeah, most of our customers do that. It's pulled in directly from your accounting software. Think of the accounting system and all the other systems for that matter as systems of record housing that data. OpenGov is just a system and the layer on top of it where you can interact with that data without affecting the underlying data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to come? So we have users that's going to do it. You said there's an unlimited amount of users that can actually pull the data.
So you have there's unlimited users in the platform, right? So you can have 200 people in here too if you wanted to. We don't charge by person or license. You can select which people have administrative rights or which people are just users. Administrators have the ability to upload the data, to build out the data in the budget. There's different administrative rights, whereas a user just maybe has the ability to view the data and interact with it and create some of those saved views. So there's different
And from a public standpoint, for this example of Woodridge, this is a public site. So while they wouldn't be users, they would have access to this site that you built out and added specific reports to. So anyone can come into this site and look at it. From a user standpoint, that's more internal.
Okay, so my question is to you is that if we want a history of a particular vendor, I could just call in whatever vendor I want and it would generate a report on everything that's been going on with that vendor for whatever date I put in there. Right.
So similar to what I was doing when I clicked in on the police department, our transactional level reporting, if your ERP has a specific vendor name in a certain column, we could filter on that specific vendor and run historical reporting on what's happened or on what we paid them for.
Yeah, my last question is, can we delete like personal data, like social security numbers, stuff like that, so it won't be any problems with, what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have the ability to choose which data you'd actually want to pull over internally, and then which of that data you'd like to make transparently available to your citizens. So it's, for lack of a better term, a checkbox on what you want to have pulled over and what you want to be shared externally with your residents.
Are you done?
Oh, yes.
So can you talk a little bit more about the 5-year agreement? So I see it's $13,100 a year annually. So is that, I'm assuming that's every year for 5 years. So are we locked into those 5 years once we decide, if we decide to move forward? And then we just say year 2, we don't want the program anymore. Are we still liable for those extra 3 years?
Yeah, so great question. So yeah, you are locked in for a 5-year contract, which is most of what our customers are signing up for. You'd be locked in a 5-year agreement. So say you pay $14,000 a year for the software, that $14,000 would be consecutive across the 5 years, right? If for whatever reason you didn't have the funds available, we can include a non-appropriations clause in the agreement, which means if funding is not available for whatever reason economically, then we wouldn't hold it against you and you could exit the contract. There's obviously stipulations in there for that. But yeah, you're locked into the 5-year contract or whatever contract you sign up. The following year, you're not going to be charged for what the software increase is. It's just going to be locked into that $14,000 software agreement cost.
And it's like I'm assuming, auto renewal.
Yeah, after the 5 years, you're talking about each year.
Well, if we decide to go like forward after that, it's kind of like, are we going to some new rate after 5 years?
There's usually a 4% adjustment based on inflation, but that's after the 5 years. You can select whether or not you want to terminate the contract after 5 years or continue with another 5-year contract or 3 years or whatever you choose to do.
Okay, and then next question is, so in regards to kind of integrating with our ERP system, our Civic system, how is that process going to go? How long does it take? And have you done anything like, have you worked with Civic before?
We have. So we have worked with Civic before. We have around anywhere from 100 to 200 accounting systems that we work with. We have an integrations team that's assigned with actually integrating with that software. So typically, what happens is that we meet with your vendor, Civics, and we get the integration built in. The deployment altogether for what it is that you're interested in purchasing can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months to get everything rolling and get the training up to date. So it's measured in months as opposed to years for like accounting software. But it's not too difficult. It's more so just kind of making sure that we're pulling over the right information and the accurate information, and then choosing which cadence you want it to be pulled over in. whether that's on a nightly basis or weekly basis, or another fee. It's based on your interest.
Okay, so the annual fee is one thing, but the one-time fee for professional services, there's 5 different options, just so everybody knows. And they range from one-time fee of $3,775 to a one-time fee of $24,700. And accordingly to what it says, that includes training?
Yes.
Okay, implementation and everything that goes along with it. Now, within that 5-year period, there's going to be upgrades to the system, I'm sure. So that's all wrapped up in that one-time fee, as well as the annual fee. If we have employees that are, kind of like say 2 years from now, we get a new finance director. He needs to be retrained, that's all included in that fee. There's no additional charges other than the annual fee and the one-time fee, at no time.
So once the deployment's finished, we have a team that works with you. We also have a post-deployment team. So we have what's called a customer success manager. So when you have instances like that where you need additional training, you can have that specific customer success manager come in and train those new users.
At no additional fee.
Last question. So this is more so for the village administrator. So right now, I think in a couple of weeks, Mr. Finch will be going over our December financials. I think we have the luxury of being caught up to December because we have some extra help. In my opinion, once that help, goes away, how are we going to keep up with the data? Because in my opinion, if we're going to pay $13 grand a year, we need to do our part to keep up with the data in order to, make sure that we get the best use of the data and open gov.
No, absolutely. I mean, the reality is that we have a finance team, a department, so therefore the finance department is going to do what they do. At the end of the day, whether we get this system or not, data is being generated. We're getting data generated from our code enforcement, from our police department, from our accounts payable, for our receivables. Data is being generated. The thing about this is, as I kept saying, it layers upon all the things that we already have in existence, is that it allows us to pull all this data together and therefore actually start making more strategic decisions around the data. So the reality is we really won't need, more human capital to get it done, because the other part is as I said, with professional training. The reality is that everybody will be trained. Anyone who's going to contribute to the creation of data will be trained. The senior department heads will be trained. And that's why I really like the system in the sense about the unlimited user access. Of course, like I said, we'll be monitoring, who has administrative controls on certain things, but the reality is everybody will be trained and understanding that they'll be responsible for giving their data or having it pulled from their respective systems.
Right, no, I understand that, really do, but I'm just saying that as the village, we need to make sure our finance department is up to date with our financials if we're going to make the best use of this system. We can't be 6, 7 months, 8 months behind in closing our books, because then that behooves us to purchase a system that gives us old data. Right, if I want to see the data, I want to see data as of, within reason, not 8 months ago. So I'm just saying that's a question for us.
Right, there's some internal things that we need to address in it. That's a different question. The system is still what it is. The system is what it is. And even if how we set up the dashboard representation, understanding that, here's the incremental analysis associated when we gather this data. But at the end of the day, what you're kind of talking about is some internal questions that we need to address as to how we're going to catch up all our data as much as possible. And that is something that's in the works. There's going to be some more discussions around that. But that is a goal. Obviously, we want it. Because we got to get our CAFRs done and everything, so we need to get it done.
Right, and I guess the last question. So is something you want to implement for the new fiscal year starting in May, or is this a more near-term project?
My personal choice is that I would like to implement the basic level of it, because there are some things. So even if we get the training involved and then just kind of build out of it, we can still start importing some of the data right there. But as we start transitioning into the new fiscal year, there would be probably some add-ons that I would like to revisit about. The budgeting process we can't even touch right now. We just can't, because of the very statement that you made is that we just have antiquated data and we can't even start that and say that we're going to start the budgeting process again in February. To some degree, internally we'll start the discussion, but we can't even use the system for that. But for the management analysis and then also just getting all our systems integrated and then the dashboard representation, that's something that I think we could explore now.
Mr. Williams,
Can you put together some kind of timeline based on the amount of what we've been paying for audits every year? I think they run about, 60, 70,000 every year, or something like that.
Are you talking about the amount that's used to pay for when we complete the comprehensive annual financial report?
Yes.
Yeah, that's roughly.
And I'm looking at what we would be paying for here. It seems like we'd be getting, because we're getting into the new technology, the new age of everything, it would save us a bunch of money if we had the data already there. Is there any way you could find out how much we would be saving if we went this route? I think it would be a lot cheaper. I'm just saying.
Let me be measuring that because, in a sense, we're kind of mixing apples and oranges with that. At the end of the day, to complete our comprehensive annual financial reports, we do need to have independent auditors that do that. So therefore, we can't take them out of the picture. Now, I think the question about what fluctuates with, from my understanding of the price associated with it, is that I think in previous years, some of the financial statements were completed on the right time, and there was some data missing and other things, so they had to do different testings and internal controls. So therefore, that led to increase in their, their time and what else they had to do. With that said, I think having a system allows us to say, okay, we know what needs to be in here. So here's a responsibility with every department. You do what you need to do. Now, that still puts a lot of burden the burden still is on our finance department to make sure that all the statements and everything that needs to be in place. Now, the reality is it's also kind of warehousing too, so we have some centralization of it. But the real answer to your question is that the cost is going to be affected or predicated on how organized we are with our data and how everything is readily available for the independent auditors to do it.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm understanding is that because we have the data based on the accounts that the OpenGov would give us, and it would be more accurate toward whatever, like Miller and Cooper every year. We don't have to go and look and all that sort of stuff for a while. We would have the actual data there. And it would be easier, and they wouldn't be here that much longer trying to do an annual audit. You know what I mean? It would help.
I think the simple answer is we would be more organized.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee, I just want to, we're getting off topic. You're asking the village administrative questions that can be asked we're trying to deal with the OpenGov. If we have any questions for the presentators, the presenters, that can understand that we're going back and forth with the village administrator, now is not the time. So if you have some questions for those that are doing the presentation,
Thank you, Mr.
That's what I'm saying. But if we're going to be doing back and forth with the village administrator, we can do that any time. Because I do have some questions for the presenters, and I'm just
thank you, Mr. Mayor. But the reason I asked the question is because I want the village administrator to tap into what I was saying, and maybe he could explain it more in detail on how effective, cost effective it would be to use OpenGov in connection with.
But he just told you that he can't use
because this, I asked the question.
I said no. I'm saying okay. He said he can't. You cannot augment.
Well, he answered my question.
Anyway,
right.
I do have a question for the presenters. Okay.
Okay. Going back to the 5 options, the village administrator said something about starting with the basic option. Okay. If within the 5-year period we find ourselves wanting to go into option 2, 3, 4, or 5, because we find out it's more beneficial, and now we have the funds to fund that. This is an option? Okay. Is that an option to move back onto other options later on? He's talking about maybe starting with the first option, can we move on?
Yes and no. So there's 5 different options that I presented to Chris, right? So what you can do is you can roll it out in phases, right? So if you wanted to get everything, but you didn't want to pay for it all at once, but wanted to get the discount pricing for the bundled package, you can do that, and then we roll it out in phases based on the timeline that you're foreseeing using those tools, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you were to purchase management reporting and some of the dashboard capabilities, and then later on wanted to use us for going through your budget process, you'd have to purchase performance measures and management reporting first, and then later on would have to pay for a budget builder at the cost it is at that time. Yeah, whereas if you wanted to purchase all 3 together, you could. We'd have to figure out a strategy on how to separate the payment structure.
So option number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're totally separate of each other?
Correct. That is
Okay,
correct.
so we want 1 and 2 and 3, that's one one-time fee for each of those, and 1 annual fee for each of those. Is that what you're saying?
Well, option 5 is the entire cloud.
That's
So
the only one that has the entire?
that has everything, right? And so if you were to add everything together a la carte, it'd become a lot more than the OpenGov cloud, right? Because it's more economically friendly for us to implement everything all at once and use those resources. Whereas if you were to do it separately each year, it'd be separated. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, much better.
Okay. And just to clarify on the cost, the software's an annual cost. That one-time deployment is for the services and the training and the customer success manager and analysts that are helping you upload the data. We're, for lack of a better term, holding your hand throughout the first 6 months to a year to make sure that you're satisfied and happy as a customer.
So within the option, so like for example, option 1, you have management reporting and transparency. That rate is $97.75 for annually. Do you have a rate per product, like per service?
So yes, we do. If you want like per service, like per capability of the platform, you could do that. I put it in with bundle packages as well, which are more friendly and attainable or attractive for our customers. And so most of those are bundle packages, and they're called, starter package or starter package plus. And those are bundle rates of what customers typically go to make the most of their investment, right? Management reporting and transparency is just one of the solutions. If we were to purchase that with the integration together and performance aspect together, it's more friendly of an option.
Okay, thank you.
Can you explain that 20% reduction in FOIA requests? That's on the back page.
Right, yeah, so that's from one of our customers, one of our case studies. So as Matt was saying, you can create those saved views internally, and you can make those externally available for your customers, right? So what most of my customers do is that they'll get the FOIA requests that are coming in asking for different various things. They'll create a report, add a saved view, and they'll make that available online so that instead of someone coming in and asking that question, they can do their own interactive research online that you're making available to them and answer their own questions.
Yeah, but that's predicated on them going out and actually know what they're looking for. So I mean, the chance of that is like probably very slim. Possibly.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we offer the ability to share this on Facebook and social media and wrap a narrative around that. There's always an opportunity for data misinterpretation or not actually understanding how to walk through and get that data. So we make this easily available online, but there's also the ability to kind of share a story around the data so that they understand what they're looking at.
Okay, I do have, who does the inputting in the system? In other words, you were saying that you have the department heads. And the department heads, I'm sure, depending on what level they decide to go with, you'll have input or questions for the department heads that they have to gear this particular option that we have toward them. So therefore, you're going to provide questions that the department heads need to answer so they can input the information, and will the department heads be the ones actually doing the inputting of the information from remotely, or is it going to go to one person and that person will actually be doing the input?
Yeah, that's a great question, and then Matt can kind of keep me honest here and even add on to it. But it's a little bit of both, and so it depends on the organization, right? So if you have one person that's kind of managing all of the data from the different departments, we work with that person, whether it's an integration with that non-financial system or finding a way to pull it over from Excel. On the contrary, if you have different departments that are operating in their siloed systems by themselves, or with each department to figure out if they have data living in that system or in Excel or in the file they have that data living in, and figure out a way to pull it over into OpenGov. And there's a variety of ways we can do that. I don't know if you wanted to touch on ways.
The reason I was saying, you put in there about overtime. You put in there about different things. You had departments that overtime. And then I saw that you had it actually spelled out what that person actually did with overtime. And I guess that's some of the transparency. You're saying that, okay, this particular police officer had to work overtime for these, or whatever case it may be, and someone will pull that up. Yeah. But somebody has to actually input that. And that's what I'm asking, because right now, the overtime is scheduled. I mean, not scheduled, but it actually is put out there. Yep. But now, as far as what they did and have a story behind it, I don't know if there's anything that's typed into that, but I saw on your slide that there is something on there for that, and somebody can input that information. I'm just wondering, is it, right now, because we don't have the manpower that we have to implement a lot of these things that you're talking about. So basically, right now, the department head would have to be the one that would actually do the inputting into the system. And then when someone wants to pull it down, quite naturally, but it's still based on who does implementation, who actually puts that in there. And right now, we don't have a person to do that, so that's what I'm saying, because it goes, we have things that go in the civic, yes. But as intricate as your presentation shows, it shows a lot of different things, which makes sense, and that's what they're paying for. But somebody has to implement that. Somebody has to keep that up, somebody has to update that, and has to put it in there.
Yeah. So in terms of the non-financial systems, that we can actually integrate with the systems that we have before to make it easier so your department head is just entering into the system as they see fit, as they're normally doing, and we pull that information over on a weekly or monthly basis. Or what your department head can do is, as they're entering that information into the system or into Excel, they can choose how often it's getting put into OpenGov, right? So they don't actually have to manually go in there every day and update it, but they can choose, say, I want to pull this information over from Excel or from the system we're working with on a monthly basis, and the work for us to set up that.
On a monthly basis, man.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's entirely up to you, right? So you can have it updated in the system you're currently using and then pull it in OpenGov.
Because the reason why I'm saying that you're talking about actuals, budget actuals, that changes every week. So that's what I'm saying, that, you know, somebody has to actually put that, which it is in there. And you can pull it down, but that's just one, but if the department has to do that different, I'm just saying that, you know, they have to set aside the time to actually type that in, because we have nobody that can actually do that. But that's, I'm just asking, it's still gonna have to be done by a department head to put in what his department did for that particular week, basically.
So, what Alex said earlier, and I think I may have the answer for this. So, if the department heads are entering this into Civic Plus, OpenGov is sitting on top of Civic Plus. So, I'm almost hearing that you're concerned about maybe a double entry?
No, I'm not concerned about double entry. I'm looking at, as intricate as you have ClearGov, in other words, you've got a lot of different things that are part of that. Somebody has to implement that data. Somebody has to actually put that, it doesn't just come out. Somebody has to do that. So I'm just saying that once you fulfill that particular status, you got to update that each and every year.
Is that information, that overtime information, is it already going into Civic Plus?
I don't know if the actual overtime goes in, but the story behind it, I'm not sure.
I think the mayor is also talking about narrative behind. So
right.
If overtime is 40, 100, he's like, okay, well, what's the story behind why it's 100 now? So I don't know if you have a capability to enter narrative for the department head to say, okay, overtime was this because we had a water main break on this street. So I think that's his question to you guys. Do you have that capability to add narrative to our?
They have it. They showed it there, but now somebody has to actually put that in there. Right now, it shows that you have the capability. I don't know which one of these options it is, but it shows that you have the capability to do that. So I'm just saying someone has to actually do that. And my next question was, I see standard billing terms. I invoice annually. Is that a cut and sew, or can it be quarterly billed?
Oh no, it can be quarterly billed. Okay. It can be quarterly billed. Yeah. Most of our customers do annually.
And then the one-time cost that relates to each different option.
Yeah, depending on the option.
Okay. One-time cost. Okay. And then once we pay them, because I was doing math real quick, and I'm looking at 9 and 3, but it's really 9, 3 plus the 3,000. I'm not talking about option 1. The $3,700 is a one-time, so after that it'll be just $9,700.
You got it. So the first year cost would be the combination of the software and the services. The subsequent years, 2 through 5, will just be the software.
And the training, is the training on-site or off-site?
Can be either or, whatever you prefer. We can come on-site and train.
Is there any additional cost for off-site?
No. So we have a location in Chicago with a lot of our customer success team, so they'd be able to come up here and do a lot of on-site training.
We'd actually prefer that. In terms of the narrative, I'll answer this very shortly. For the budget process, the request, if you wanted to add the narrative, you absolutely could. They would just have to add the narrative, and they would pull it into the budget builder product capability, and they'd be off and running with the narrative married to the actual financial numbers. In terms of adding a narrative and creating a story, sharing that narrative with citizens, yes, technically the department head or department would have to add that narrative and narrate that financial or non-financial metric to tell that story. If you needed help doing that, we do have something called professional services and premium support that is additional, but if it's something that you feel like would be advantageous for the village, we can work with you on that.
Okay. And do these, I'm sorry, do these prices, how long are they in effect, in other words? I don't know how long they go for, because right now we're
You're talking about the price, yeah, so it's, it was 2019 pricing, but we're making it available until the end of March.
So the available
conversation started in 2019. Although there's 2020 pricing.
Okay, so that, but so option 4, the cloud, that includes everything, honestly.
Right, it's everything. We didn't have a chance to show you everything in the cloud, but yeah, it includes absolutely everything. We actually just acquired a company by the name of Viewpoint for permitting and licensing
We
software.
can't hear you again.
We actually acquired a company by the name of Viewpoint for permitting and licensing software. So we have about 200 customers on that. So I think Tanya, the economic development director, was actually interested in that as well later down the road. We're trying to be a one-stop shop for everything the government needs throughout the annual planning life cycle.
Well, I have a question, like, for day-to-day reports. For day-to-day reports. Like, say, for instance, the public works director wants to come in and say, well, I want to get how many water main breaks we had for that particular month. And that, there was a question about the narrative for that particular area. So there's a narrative that we could put in on the software for something like that. This has nothing to do with the financial data. This has to do with, just everyday, things that happen in the village. So we should be able to do that. So if I pull up an address and they say, oh, I worked on this, but we had to go back. We've been on this site for 5 days, and they could tell me we've been on this site for 5 days. We have to come back, it's finished and it's completed, or we have to come back and extend that time. So that kind of information could be available to us.
Correct. You can update it when you see it.
Okay. Yeah, I normally we get that stuff now. The Public Works Director gives us that kind of stuff, but it's not extensive unless we go and do an Excel spreadsheet, what he does. And you said that he could take his information that he has on Excel and put it in good, right? And we could just generate a report, which was, great.
Okay.
Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to the I do want to go back. I forgot, I overlooked the gas and wash. What happened with that is he's not here, but what he wanted to, and I talked to him and the board about this before, to get a extension on Sunday to serve alcohol at 8 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock on Sunday only at the gas and wash. So if there's any comments about that, let me know. If not, if I don't get any comments, I'll ask the clerk to, I'll have to ask the lawyers to change the ordinance for alcohol consumption on Sundays only, and then I'll bring that before the board before we actually vote on it. So I just wanted, if there's no comments on that, then I will ask the lawyers to compile something, and then I'll bring it to the board, and then we can discuss it probably 2 weeks from now. So just wanted to bring that up. All right. Yes. You should have, if you have to. Okay. Give y'all some exercise. Okay, next one.
I'm looking for the mic to comment on that.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Are you asking for, are we in favor of moving forward with that?
I'm just asking if there are any problems with moving forward because they've asked us, and had brought it to the board, and then I said, okay, I give you guys a chance to think about it. So if there's anything, anybody has any comments about that, because I have to get it revised by the lawyers for Sunday, and it would just be for the gas and wash on Sunday. And they're trying to, because I guess the other truck stops are letting people serve alcohol or consume alcohol on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. So it's just a business aspect. So, yes.
Well, if you're asking for a consensus, and I know we're not voting right now, but if you want a consensus to move forward, I'm not in favor. Just so you know.
That was also, the bar was also included in that when we talked about it the first time. Tequilas.
That's true, they serve alcohol too here on Sunday. And everybody, they actually serve.
Personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, it's just.
Well, it's a competitive move. It's only on Sundays from 8 o'clock. Right now, it's consumption is at 12 o'clock, so it's just 4 hours ahead of time. And the owner of Gas and Wash had asked me to bring it back before the board, and I told him I would.
All right, so then if the other salons want to do it too, it's okay?
What salons?
The other gaming halls. They serve alcohol there too?
Well, it's 8 o'clock. It's just one day Sunday, yes.
But you're only doing it for 2 places?
Anyone that serves alcohol.
All right, that's how we need to phrase
Anyone
it.
that serves alcohol on Sunday.
Right, so a restaurant.
Well, anyone that serves alcohol on Sunday, they're restricted to serve alcohol after 12.
Still not good.
Oh, well, I'm asking the board, so.
So that's for clarification. At first you said it was just gas and wash. Now you're saying.
Well, is any place that serves alcohol?
Every place that serves alcohol will now be able to serve.
Right now they're only able to serve alcohol at 12 o'clock.
So, at all the places, but only the gas and wash actually asks to have, there's no other.
No, the tequilas asked the same question too. The gaming powers hadn't asked that. But the reason why the gas and wash asked because the other truck stop down the way is actually, they amended their license to start at 8 o'clock on Sunday. Okay. All right, website update.
So I came before the board before talking about that we need to revamp our website. That has not changed. The reality is that if we're going to be serious about rebranding and effectively addressing our communication tools, we need to redesign our website. In that process, the corporate authorities informed me that I need to research and review that we enter into an existing agreement, which we did. Since that time, I terminated the contract because we would have went into automatic renewal. No, we were not entitled to a refund. I did question about that. However, at the end of the day, technically it was our fault. I mean, at the end of the day, we didn't provide the content necessarily for them to develop it. With that said, I did begin looking at other opportunities. Pretty much I started this search when we were at the Illinois Municipal League Conference. And in that process, I talked to Municode because they already do a codification for our ordinances. Municode has a suite of services available, and one of them was website development. Since that time, Madam Clerk and myself, we had some demos with them, and they presented a package. I presented that to you all at the board. You said table it because of the previous contract we entered in. Now I'm revisiting that concept. The reality is that, you know, either we're going to enter into an agreement to redo the website or not. And if we're not, then that begs another discussion. So I came before you with that said. I also outlined a memo stating that the difference with this is that the reason why I like Unicode is that it's one, because it's flexible payment options, but more importantly, milestones to be hit. And then also technical expertise, working with the clerk and then what other corporate authorities want to be involved. We can have a project team to make sure that the content is properly centralized and delivered to them to make sure that it is uploaded accordingly, and then all the department heads be held accountable as well. But the question is, once again, is how do we want to proceed?
Oh, I was ready for the trustees, yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you for including me in that bylaw.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I think you can now. Okay. Mr. Williams just stated the reason why we were asked to table the Municode presentation. The actual reason why you, the trustees...
Your mic isn't working?
No, it's not. So I'm talking as loud as I can.
Well, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Oh,
So
really?
Let's move on. Because they're operate on independent...
Clerk, Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry. But you know, the actual reason, that just is the actual reason that they asked us to table Municode was they asked us to go back to the table, go back to the drawing board, and research a couple more companies and to present other companies and their offerings to them. That's what actually happened.
Well, I got different orders as well. I mean, the reality is that we issued an agreement and I was in charge of the task of researching it. I researched it, I presented to it, but even to the point of your question about if that is the case of bringing more options, which I don't have a problem with. I'm very clear, I do have some partiality to Municode because they already have one of our systems in place. And I'm trying to make sure that when we get a provider, that they should be comprehensive. Now, I don't like fragmentation of stuff, so I'm very clear about why I'm slightly partial to Municode. But directly to your point is, that may be the question, but the reality is still, what do we want to do? Do we want to proceed with a redesign of the website? We could bring several vendors, that's irrelevant, I don't have a problem with that. The question is, do we want to commit financially to making this happen this fiscal year? That's the central question.
Okay, let me, I don't know what information you both got, but I'm trying to figure out how Municode happened to get involved in this because the website was a different entity that one of the trustees at the time had asked that we go into contract with, and that's how that was, and it was like $1,500 for the whole year. It wasn't monitored, it wasn't ever put into place. It was dropped, the ball was dropped on that, and I'll just say that's exactly what happened. So we had a contract, it was $1,500 a year, and this has nothing to do with Municode. Municode was something different that we did with all our different codifications of the different ordinances, but Municode was not the website. This is a website that was brought back last year, and it was supposed to be monitored by one of the trustees, which, like I said again, didn't happen. So this, I don't want you people to confuse one thing for another, and it was like $1,500. So it wasn't Municode. So.
No, but after we went to IML, Mr. Williams and I communicated with Municode. After that, Mr. Williams and I, we sat through some of their webcasts. And we had discussions with them.
But we do have Municode.
This was Municode for the website, not for our ordinances and codification. They offer a number of different entrees that is web-based, that's cloud-based as well. When Mr. Williams brought the concept to the board, they specifically stated, yes, we definitely know we need a new website. That's why we talked. However, what I've been sharing with Mr. Williams is that who they presented themselves to be and their capabilities where a website is concerned is not the same as when we initially talked with them. So they said they could offer this, they could offer this, but then when it hit the fan, they could only offer this amount. And so I'm not certain which trustee asked that it be tabled and that we go back and we bring a couple more options. Now, the reason why I know that to be a fact is because You guys, we're gonna go through all of these minutes in a little bit. And within one set of those minutes, it clearly discusses. So not only do I record it when I'm here, but then as I'm going back, actually doing the minutes, I have to listen to it all over again. So a lot of times, it's not me just being a smarty pants. It is because I have listened to it and have reviewed it and revisited it so many times that I basically know. And they did ask for at least another company. And I have been trying to communicate that to the village administrator, but instead, he's gone on a tangent and is attempting to do it on his own.
Okay, well,
First of all, that's important communication, that's not correct information. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on, just a second, hold on. We're not going to do this. We have a long agenda, so we're not going to go back and forth. You presented, my question to you is, is a website update. Is what you're presenting is a new company that you would like to see do the website? And if so, what's the price?
What I'm presenting is first is, do you all want to proceed with a new website?
Okay.
And if so, I can come back with new vendors. Let me be very clear. That's not a question at all. I just want to know if you want to proceed. When I did initially, you all said table it.
Okay, my second question is, who do you have in mind to monitor or to implement the website?
Well, the vendor that my preference is right now initially is MuniCode. And the reason I said that is because we're already using that. And the reason I like them is because it integrates already our codification process. The other part is how they lay things out. Nevertheless, I am not opposed to bringing other vendors, of course.
I'm just wondering right now, who is going to be the go-to?
Oh, the point person for that? Well, see, once again, why I like MuniCode is that we can have a central administrator, whoever it is. I'm not going to say whoever. But the thing about what the MuniCode is that every department head would have user access. And because they have user access, then that means that they can make sure their respective department tab is updated accordingly. And that takes a lot of the burden off of what happened before, which is like everything is on one person. It's like, no, if the police department says we're having an event, well, you do whatever, because they're all templates, they're all customization stuff. So you put it in your respective template, you put it there, and before it's published, then that senior administrator would, central administrator would review it.
Okay. Trustee?
My recollection is not only what was already been said, but the fact that yes, we were paying for a service that we were not using, and that the website was severely out of date. I took the time, it's 2 pages worth of revisions that needs to be made to the website before we can even consider updating the website. We need to update things that are 2-3 years old already. Yes, we do need a new website. But with MuniCode, when you presented, you were presenting us to move forward with something that we already had in place. It was another company which we weren't using. You did the due diligence, you canceled that contract. That contract is now done. Now we can look forward to another company. However, before we move forward, just like with the other presenter, our financial records are not up to date, our website's not up to date, and we don't have any money where our budget is lacking. So my question is, we need these things, but can we move forward with them when we're not current with our financial records or our website? But yes, we do need both. So yes, I would like you to go and get other options besides MuniCode. And MuniCode might end up being the one. But even in saying that, if you review the 2 pages that I took time to see what's outdated in our website, I have no problem, Mr. Mayor. I was on the website committee before. I would be more than happy if you allow me to do these changes and upgrade these with your permission.
My question is, right now, these changes I'm looking at, I mean, Gerald is the one that's actually, I've installed it, was the one that actually put these stuff on the website. It was Gerald. So nobody else had any access. They had to go through him.
But he has to be told, but just like you just stated, just like what happened with the first company that we had, unless they put the information in front of somebody to tell them to make those changes, Gerald does not go and seek out the information.
Again, that's what I said. There has to be somebody that's going to implement, and the department heads, I don't see it. I mean, the department heads have their departments. But a lot of things that are gonna be on the website is not gonna just be department.
Exactly.
So therefore, someone's gonna have to be the one to collect all the information and actually implement it. So that's the thing, and then, I know we keep going back and forth that, you know, we got rid of this contract. I'd be willing to bet you, I know that this particular website is gonna cost more than $1,500.
Oh, no, it's not. That's the other thing.
Okay, well, that'll be great. But I'm just saying, before we create this, we need a person that's gonna actually implement this. You need a body, not just say that, because the department heads don't implement, then it's gonna be outdated again. So it's gotta have somebody that can take this information, disseminate it, and put it on the website, or whatever, but you're gonna have to have a person to do it. At the time, that's why this fell through, because the person that was supposed to do it didn't do it. There was no backup or anything like that. So, I mean, I can understand going out and getting quotes, you know. So these are some of the things that the budget is coming up with, and all of a sudden, because we cut a lot of stuff because we didn't have any money. Now it looks like we can find some money. So I'm just hoping that we do, before we decide to put the horse before the cart, and the cart before the horse, that we have somebody that's going to be the one that's going to be taking care of the website. And you're saying, trustee, that you're going to be, that you would like to be that person.
Yes.
And that's something that we have to talk about, because there's two other things that you had referred to also that you wanted to implement. So, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, be facetious, but let's talk about it first before we do, because that's what happened, that's what got us in trouble the first time. So I need to find out exactly what it entails, what we have to do. And this person, whoever is going to be, you say yourself, to be able to be available to do that, that's all.
No, absolutely, Mr. Mayor, and that's why one of the things that this time around, even with our Open Gov, that we respect is that technical expertise is going to be there in place as well, and then also it's going to be more centralized as an involvement. So I will take that into consideration as I go out and get quotes as well, sir.
Okay. All right. Yes.
So also I was going to say that, so just because we canceled that contract doesn't mean that, you know, they're a bad company. We should look at them again, because the $1,500 was actually a pretty decent price for what they were offering us at the time. And things might have changed since then, but, you know, again, it wasn't their fault that, you know, we didn't follow through. So if we could look at them again, just a quote, and just get another quote from them, I mean, we might bring them back, who knows? I'm just saying, it's just another option.
No, I think that's very fair. I think the only reservations I did initially have when I put in a memo is that it was just that I think that vendor management and the concept of saying, what I did like Unicode in the sense of what they outlined, it says we have strategic milestones that we're going to basically hold you accountable to tasks to achieve, because then it throws the time frame out. And I think because well, I don't know if they did it or not, but at the end of the day, those obviously the milestones weren't reached out, but nevertheless, so now we have two vendors that we can say, you know, we'll be bringing forth with the polls.
Well, can they come out and give us a demonstration?
Which, both of them, or either?
Well, we saw some, well, we need one to. Might want to have them come out and give a demonstration as to what their website looks like.
No, that's not a problem. It's interesting because Unicode wanted to actually do a live feed, but the reality is we are pretty jam-packed today on the agenda. So that is possible that I can have some of the vendors come out and do it like we just did today.
They can't necessarily come out, but they can do a webinar as they did before when we were working on that.
Okay. Then if you want to set that up, then we'll go. But I'd still like to, before we do that, is have a person in place that we can, you know, say, okay, they can do this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next item is CMAP, Memorandum of Understanding with Metropolitan Planning Council. Oh, this is Maggie again. Okay.
I'm back. So the village was selected by the Metropolitan Planning Council for no-cost technical assistance to conduct a water loss audit.
Yes.
So a water loss audit is going to help us identify where real loss and apparent loss are occurring within our water distribution system. Real loss meaning maybe leaks, apparent loss maybe errors in filling or metering. And so what you have before you in your packets is a memorandum of understanding to formally establish a partnership between the village and the Metropolitan Planning Council. There's a scope of work attached to this MOU, and so you'll see that not only will we be receiving technical technical assistance in conducting the water loss audit, but will be receiving assistance in analyzing the results and looking for ways to incorporate their findings into our capital planning and any other ways in which we might find it useful. There will also be 2 educational sessions that the group will bring to the board. So at the onset of the project, they'd like to do some introductory training on water management systems, then a final presentation once we have the results of the audit to walk through what the key findings were and make some recommendations as to what the village might take as far as next steps. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about the project or the partnership. Yes, Mr. Clerk.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee.
Can you let them know that the document that they received last week, right there, is just slightly different from the one that was in their mailboxes today?
Correct.
And what made them change?
Correct. There is an updated version of the MOU that was placed in your mailboxes today. There were no substantive changes to any of the content. They were just grammatical and some, clerical errors that were fixed in the interim.
I just have one question. Is there any cost to enter into this agreement?
There is no cost.
Everything else I'm fine. Hey.
Thank you.
So late Christmas gift.
So this will be the ordinance now. Do we make the ordinance up or will they?
So the memorandum of understanding, I'd like to go before the board next week, if everybody's good with the language here.
We have to have a ordinance?
Yes, we can put the resolution.
Are you gonna make it once we can send it to the lawyers?
Sure, yes.
Or, okay. Because I just put here, so in other words, no one has a problem with, that's what I was gonna ask, instead of going back and forth. This is what she's gonna put into a ordinance, and I think it's the first 2 pages or 3 pages.
Yes.
Page 3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be something that'll be voted on at the next board meeting. So if you have any problems, any questions, or any add-ons or whatever, please give them to us or give them to Maggie before that time, because it's going to be on the agenda for next week.
So we don't have an ordinance for next?
I'm hoping that we should. It doesn't take that long. What do you mean? I mean, just a matter of voting on the next Tuesday.
You guys have an ordinance. Resolution.
For clarification, Maggie, are you preparing the resolution or are you sending this information to the attorneys to prepare a resolution? Because the clerk needs to get it in her packet in plenty of time to put it on the agenda and we'll get you review it. So are you preparing the resolution?
That's what I was asking. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying, that either you can prepare it or you can give the copy and we can send it to the lawyers and let them look at it. It doesn't take but a day. They can get it back to the clerk by Friday or before Friday, and then she can disseminate it in the packets on Friday. And if anybody has any questions at the time, you can compare to make sure that the verbiage stays the same, and that's it. I mean, it's not that hard of a...
No, and it's your preference. I can put this language into a resolution and get it to you by tomorrow. And if you would need to pass it on to legal to review in advance of next week, then if that's enough time, that works for me. Okay, thank you.
All righty. Thank you, man. All right, the next item is the police chief interdepartmental agreement.
Good evening, everyone. I was working on it. They can hear it. Okay. Mr. Mayor, Village Board, thank you for your time. So you should have before you intergovernmental agreement between ourselves and District 168, where, of course, it was discussed in executive session how we're taking advantage of an offer that the school district has offered, to my understanding, at least for the last 5 or 6 years. It was just a matter of putting it together strategically implementing it where it would cushion the blow as far as hiring an additional officer on our current budget. As you read through it, I guess the objective is to try and get this put on the agenda and get it signed so I can get it over to the school district so they can do the same. It renews automatically every year, and it basically covers 75% of not only the officer's salary, but his fringe benefits and other benefits. There are, the reimbursement payments in which they are, of course, that number would go down. It would be prorated in the spirit of the agreement. I'm referring to Exhibit B. There are not numbers in that exhibit right now because, number one, the permanent selection to that position has not been announced. Number two, the new salaries also are being instituted currently, so you'll have complete and accurate numbers when it's time to put it on the agenda. Yes. Oh.
That mic doesn't work at all.
No.
That'd be a smart thing, right?
Okay, the way that I read this, it reads as an intergovernmental agreement. The way that I read this, it reads as an intergovernmental agreement. It reads as it is a resolution. It's got signatures, places for signatures like it's a resolution. But do we need a resolution like we did with Mackie to do to approve the memorandum, the MOU? This may be something you want to run through legal. And number two, it says Will County in here. We're not in Will County anymore. So that would need to be removed. But my question is, again, just like with the previous presentation, do we need a resolution to approve the MOU for this? It reads like a resolution with the whereases and the signature lines, and it does. My question is, could you run it through legal before the packets are presented?
It was sent to Mike McGrath. I will check back with him to see if it needs a resolution. Also, I believe they left Cook and Will counties on there because of there is a small corner, isn't there?
No. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that. So all of our agreements moving forward, Will County needs to be removed.
Really? Okay.
And
all right. And I'll get clarification on that because I was under the impression that we still had a corner of Will County, and that was sold. Okay. That was sold. Okay. So we can amend that as well as check with the attorneys.
Question.
Yes.
So the school year ends in May or June-ish, somewhere around there. Is the school in agreement to extend this until another year? Because, I mean, we're already almost getting to May. I mean, it's already January, so half of that's already gone. Are they willing to extend this for the 2020, 2021 year?
It automatically renews itself. Yeah. If you check under 8, under termination, it will automatically renew itself. That way that there can be fiscal planning between the two entities.
That's 75% even when school's out of session, correct? Summer hours all night?
No, it's during the time period of
during school.
School.
So I mean, we pay full salary for 3 months.
Yeah, for 3 months. And we have an extra guy.
Right.
When it's busy.
I was going to say, he brought this up about a month ago, so it's just basically getting the numbers. Now, will the numbers be in this resolution, or that would be the thing to get, because like you stated, it raises will have to be.
Yeah, what I'm gonna end up doing is with the person that's selected, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
we're selecting the senior personnel, so it's that salary of which the 75% will come from. And then the person that's then hired is at the entry level. That's different. No, there's a senior person. Senior personnel are subject to this.
Okay.
So
First thing?
Two more questions, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Number one, has this been reviewed by the Police and Fire Commission? As far as, don't they usually be the ones that test the officers or see that the officers come through?
This would not fall under the police and fire because this is independent. So once this is filled with a current officer, and then
From another,
from us.
from us?
Yes, from it's
First
internal.
you said it, I thought maybe you said it was something that if we were down an officer, we could grab a lateral officer from another department.
Oh, no, that's something to do, that's different.
Okay,
That's
nothing to do with this one.
Yeah,
This
Okay,
is school
I just
district.
wanted to make sure.
Right.
This is school district, it's not lateral movement of hiring.
Okay.
And even when we do lateral, that person that we lateral in would not go here.
It'd be a different.
This would be a person that's currently working here, who's already got seniority and qualified to hold that position.
Because when I read this, like I said, it reads like a resolution already.
Mhm.
This calls for the president of the school district to sign it also. So if our legal is going to be reviewing it, is their legal review it?
Well, she had.
Oh,
I don't
so
know.
I'm saying.
I sent this directly to Mike McGrath. I will touch base with him tomorrow, and I'll get answers for him.
Because it's calling for both the school district and the village to sign those.
They have not sent this to their legal. Okay.
So this may be.
All right. But this is their proposal. This is not ours. So. Okay.
But again, because they have to sign it,
Right.
it hasn't gone through their legal.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. And do we need another type of document to approve it? That's what I'm asking.
Resolution.
Chief, you said senior officer, that's because it's like a preferential, it goes to a senior officer because it's like a choice.
So you're talking about seniority?
It's like a preferential job.
It's a special assignment. Anytime we have a special assignment.
Straight days, the whole night.
It would be something similar to that, but he would more have he would be basically assigned to the investigative unit because he's dealing strictly with kids, and it actually would help us a lot on our detective unit.
But down here it says flexible schedule, so it might be some of the days, and they might come and have to go and keep this on, because it specifies flexible schedule.
So it's a full 40-hour.
All right, but then as soon as we get the necessary verbiage, does anybody on the board have any problems with moving forward with this at this time? Okay.
Thank you.
As soon as we get that, then we'll take the next step. Thank you. The next item, presentations will be by the village clerk. Number one is the community center rental.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since your administrative assistant is no longer with us, who was doing rentals, I've been doing rentals at the community center. And I would like to propose a change to the rental process, just a small one. Number one, we do not have a process, a policy, or procedures. They have an application. And so I've been able to change the application so that wherever it mentioned Parks and Recs, I just put the village. So I've made those changes. However, I would like to make another recommendation, and that's where the finances are concerned. Because as it is now, they pay X amount of money if they're going to use the facility. Then they pay a deposit if they're going to use the facility. And then they pay a deposit if they're going to use the kitchen. However, there's no fee for using the kitchen. and the deposit is $100 to use the kitchen and or the facility. My recommendation is for us to consider assessing $50 if they use the kitchen, because using the kitchen means using the resources that we have as well as the energy that's in that area. But before I would, change the application piece, I thought that it would be something that should come before the board for your consideration.
Something gets broke.
That makes sense. There was an old, I forgot how long ago that was put together. That was back when I was there. We changed a few items on that. So if you want to take that and revitalize it and change it and then bring that back, that's not a problem. Because it needs to be updated. Like I said, it's like 2006 the last time that any changes were made to the application.
Okay, so you want me to bring the application back to you?
Well, no, you can make the changes and then bring the new changes, to the board, and then if they have any input in it. But I mean, like I said, it was 2006. We did some changes, but like I said, it hasn't been done in a while. So that's a good idea that there are some things that need to be changed, and especially if we're not charging to use the kitchen. And you're right. It uses gas and whatever else has to be done. I mean, we're charging to use the community center. So yeah, so if you want to bring that back to the board and work on that, and then...
That's what I'm saying, so bring it back to the next committee.
Yes, the next change. Yes, trustee.
So, you're right, it hasn't been changed in a long time. But we don't charge for the use of the kitchen in the senior center, so I don't see the difference. I think it should be a package. I mean, when you use the community center, there's a kitchen in there.
Can't hear you.
We don't charge for the kitchen in the senior center. So what's the difference between the kitchen and the senior center? But what I'm saying is if you charge a separate deposit for the kitchen than you do for the rental, if the kitchen is not kept clean, or if something's broken, as somebody say, or something, then we keep the deposit. That's what I think we need to implement. I'm not in favor of charging an additional $50 to use the kitchen, but I am in favor of that's the reason why you have a deposit. So if it's not kept the way they found it, they don't get the deposit back. But then somebody has to be kept it. Who's going to be the one to determine?
What happens if a person comes in and doesn't use the kitchen?
It's part of the rental. It's just like in the senior center. People rent the senior center. They don't say, well, I'm going to cook or I'm not going to cook. It's available if they want to use it.
But what I'm saying is there a separate, I don't know if there's a separate deposit for the senior center kitchen. No. But what I'm asking is if you rent the center, the community center out, and the kitchen is there, do we lock, because the kitchen can be locked, do we lock the door?
That is on the application.
Okay.
If they're going to utilize the kitchen. That's on the application, because if they say that they're going to use the kitchen, then that's when they pay the extra $100 for a deposit.
I'm just so you know that at some point in time, some of that stuff in the community center has to be updated. Some of the appliances. So that, I mean, we're renting it out, but those appliances are very, very in need of updating.
Yeah, I think so.
Where? In the community center?
Yeah.
That was in the microwave and stove was in the gym side. There was they used to,
Yeah, I know they have a kitchen.
Yeah, they had a kitchen in there. Yeah.
Can I ask, if we're renting it out, where do the funds go for the rentals? They should go towards appliances to be used in the center. Is there a separate line item for the money that comes in to be used to upgrade the center?
Never has been.
Maybe that's something we need to consider. If we're going to rent it, we should rent it in good condition.
I thought that we had a line item for rentals for the community center.
Well, you had it for the Parks and Recs. You did. It was under the same budget line for the person that's going to be, running it, and you have miscellaneous, yes. But I've never seen the receipts going anywhere but general fund.
I did, though. I took the liberty to ask if they could pull for me a report of the rentals just for this year, and they were able to pull that for them.
Well, yeah, because
so there is a line.
So there is a line item.
Okay, different for them, but I mean, as far as going to a separate account is what I'm saying.
I'm in favor of it because right now, when you look at the tables that are over there, they are in disrepair. The chairs are really an embarrassment.
That was some of the money that was supposed to be used at the last budget, and it was part of the money for buildings coming from public works. That was part of the money for that, to upgrade.
Well, I'm not opposed to making some new purchases. I mean, when people come and they want to rent and they ask, can I have 8 tables? And it's like, we can give you 5.
Yeah.
You know, that's not necessarily.
And we need to upgrade the chairs and stuff.
In fact, just today, I walked someone through the community center and they saw what we had and then it said, well, can we see the senior center instead?
Yeah, that's what I said, we have to update.
Right, so they're not wanting to use that space. So I would say that the monies that we use, that we charge for rentals, should go back into upgrading and keeping that place.
Now, someone just made a comment that the refrigerator, that the stove was put in.
It was relatively new.
Trustee Costa actually, right. Put a new stove in there?
And microwave. And a microwave, yeah. But you really need to use those funds and redo that kitchen. That kitchen is nasty. It's nasty, and it needs to be redone. So really, you should use the funds for that.
But see, part of that you gotta understand is part of buildings. That comes out of the building part of it. So that and the chairs, that was put on the public works for buildings and grounds. That was part of that. So I don't know if there's still money left in there because they never did buy the chairs, they never did buy the tables, but part of that was supposed to be because we needed new tables and chairs. So we have to look into that. And if we're going to be renting something out, you're absolutely right. We need to upgrade a lot of stuff.
And the rentals are coming.
Yeah, well,
That's why
we need to upgrade.
2 and 3 a day.
Mr. Mayor, who checks the center after it's been rented?
The person that was in charge of it before was Mary, she would have to come, she had to come before and after.
Okay.
And now it's me.
Right, she used to come before they get started, and then after they come back, before they get their deposit. So now it's passed on to the clerk and she checks it before and after. Because before we give you your deposit back, we gotta make sure that nothing's broken. Okay.
Well, just to give you a little information that I talked to Mr. Finch, must have been some time ago. He was gonna make separate line items for the community center and the senior center. Now, everything goes to the general fund right now. So we always ask, well, we wanted to wait till the budget time was going on. So that's something that he's going to work on.
Trustee, could you use the mic, please?
And, when we get that money in, especially for the senior center, because they generally get some, I don't know how much they charge for the senior center now, but when they get it, they should be putting in their own separate line number. Senior
I
center
think that
actually
they do.
does one. No, they don't right now. He's going to work on it and change Mr. Finch. So,
Well,
that's
as we had talked about before, though, I think that the cost should be comparable. We shouldn't have one cost for the senior center and another for the community center.
How much is the senior center?
I don't know what the senior center is. I know what the community center is. If it's under 35 people and their residents, it's $35 an hour.
Is it spread to the seniors though?
No, not anymore. At one time, it was only for seniors. Now, anyone.
It should be for seniors.
No.
Okay? So I will update the application. I'll bring it back to you at our next committee meeting. But now, still moving on to the community center. I want to talk about space allocation and storage. Because the village uses that space as well when we have events, public events, whatever type of event. And lately, over the last couple of months, I've been lead to a number of activities over there. Well, I found that I had to carry back and forth any and everything that I had, even though I was going to need it for, say, the following week for another event. And the reason why is because we have one senior with a program who has 3 of those large cabinet spaces in the community center, and they're locked. And when I had food that I needed to have locked, and then also items that needed to be stored, there was no place to store the stuff.
Who's got stuff in there locked up? I don't know.
Yes, it's,
Well, that's a village building. If you have stuff, that we should be priority.
that's what I say. And I was told that no, the program has been taking place for 14 years and she's not moving her items.
Well,
And I'll go just a step forward to say that I resented her saying that to me because the person that I'm talking about is not a resident of the village, whereas aside from me being the clerk and I'm working to do some of our events and everything, I'm also a resident and I pay taxes. So to have somebody tell me I'm not moving my items, no, I definitely take exception because then that means I'm moving things back and forth and it shouldn't be that way.
That's right.
I can see, let me just go another step further since I'm telling on folks. The same person that I'm talking about that has 3 of the 4 cabinets in the community center, they have a whole closet in the senior center. And they have one program. And once again, it is not a resident of Sauk Village. Okay? And know that I appreciate the Panera Bread and whatever services and support anybody give to any of our residents. I appreciate it because we need it. However, that's an awful lot of real estate to be using. A whole closet.
What are they storing?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let me before you go forward, because we can drag this out all day. And what I'm trying to find out, Madam Clerk, is because we can go back and forth. This has been an ongoing thing forever and ever.
But all of these, they haven't all been.
What I want to know from you is what is it that you're asking this board to do?
I'm asking the board to do a couple of things. One, let's find out what's in the closet over there, even though I know, you're asking what do I want them to do?
You say
I want them to allocate if it's a senior program, why can't all of the senior program be run through the senior center and no portion of it at all run through the community center? See,
It's not, see, that's what I'm saying. It's not just a senior program. You see, it's one thing is a community program, other things that are in the senior center are senior related items. So
I beg to differ with you.
Okay.
Anytime I can look in that closet and I don't know when Kentucky Fried Chicken came to Illinois.
Okay,
but those original buckets are still in our closet.
We understand that.
Okay, there are so many things that
we got a long
way to go. So that's a come. It's important that our new trustees know.
Okay.
They need to know that over at the community center, when she's storing stuff, I have seen her store some of the leftover bakery goods in those cabinets that she closes.
What are you asking the trustees again?
I'm asking that we put some sanctions and decide what's equitable for a non-resident to have in terms
So
of
you're saying
real
that the
estate
person-
in our village.
That you're saying that you want sanctions put on non-resident users of the space?
No, I'm not saying users, I'm talking about the one person that's utilizing all of
But
the
you
space.
cannot single out one person.
It's only one person that's
I
doing it all.
understand that, but you can't do that. But I'm just asking so we can try to find out, we can move this. What is it that you're asking? You're asking.
I do not want open foods stored
Okay, so
in
you're
cabinets.
asking the trustees, but you're bringing it up, you're asking the trustees to do what?
I'm asking for us to do whatever it takes, by
To
whatever
do
means
what?
necessary to clean out that space and make room so that when Public Events Committee and or I or anyone else rent the space, they can have use of the space. Right now, the doors are locked. She has written on the cabinets, you know, and it's not professional.
Trustee Williams.
Thank you. I haven't been over there in a long time to check out the space, but I know there's more than one closet, and I know that the Doesn't Respond Now still take over like one room, and they lock that room, and that's the only room they have. There's another room adjacent to the hallway that goes into the community center. Who's using that room? Because there's storage there. And then if you go to the room opposite the kitchen, there's a door there. There's storage there, but I think that's more like a utility closet, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's a room off of the main room. Who's using that room? That used to be the TV room that we now have in the senior center. Who's using that room?
Respond Now.
Respond Now. So Respond Now has two spaces, which they need, because they have a lot of stuff they store from the yard. So my question is, in the senior center, there's several cabinets. In the community center, there's several cabinets. Do we have any empty cabinets?
There is one empty, well, it's really not empty because it has some pots and pans in it. So is there a place, if you wanted, you're having an event, is there a place that you can secure your belongings in advance? No, because 3 of those large cabinets are on lockdown. The other ones are small that's underground.
What closet is she using at the community center?
The cabinets.
Are you aware of the closet that is the last door before you go to the bathrooms?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Who's using that? No. That's the one near the kitchen. Who's using the one that's...
I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to tell you now.
There's 2 janitor closets.
There's 2 janitor closets there.
No, okay.
All right, Mr. Mayor, who's using that? You know which one I'm talking about.
The 2 closets that you're referring to as you go towards the bathroom, on the left-hand side, they face each other. One of them was her closet. It's clean.
It's empty.
It's empty.
Wait
a minute. The other closet was used as storage for seasonal.
Yes.
Okay, that part is what is actually it's got stains in there for seasonal. The other closet is open. Now, what she's referring to is the kitchen aspect. In that kitchen, must be about 10 cabinets in there. 3 of them have locks on them.
But there's some.
The 3 rows have locks on them all the way down.
Yeah, they're the tall ones, the ones that are about 6 feet tall.
So what about the other 7 is what I'm saying?
They're smaller and...
Okay.
They're smaller and they don't, but I'm just saying that's one thing. Here, there's a closet in the middle there that's jam-packed. And it was cleaned out at one time. Way back when I first came in, I got a lot of flack from them because they felt I threw somebody out, which I did as have that cleaned up so we could exterminate because we had problems, we had programs at the time. So, but now it's back to the way it was. You cannot go but a half a foot open. If you open the door, you can't get in. And then we need, but I don't know, what I'm trying to ask you is, what are you asking the board, because that's what you're here, you're asking the board to enact a...
I don't have the authority.
No, you're asking, that's what I'm asking. Are you
so
asking?
I'm asking the board to assist with figuring out how some of that space can be allocated to the village of Sauk Village because this is the village of Sauk Village, and it's our residents who are paying their taxes to utilize the space, for that space. So therefore, someone that does not live in the village should not be able to hold the village hostage. So I am
But she's serving the village, the residents.
She's serving the village. However, as I said, the amount of real estate that she's using for the amount of service she does, it does not compare.
No,
Okay? It does not.
I know.
So,
Can I add something to that? Just to let you know, the senior, according to the senior policy and procedures, and I don't think it has changed any, that particular classes were allocated for the senior center. That's what they have been using, and no food more than 3 days old should be stored in there. I don't know what's going on since then, but we have policies and procedures in place where they're not supposed to keep food in there. So just saying, I'm talking about the senior center. I'm not talking about the community center. Just to let you know that they have locks and there's no way for us to inspect the area. So there's a whole bunch of, I don't know what's going on there, but I'm just letting you, it's in policy and procedures is in place already. So what you want to do is, just talk to her and tell her, open it up and let's see what's in there. That's all you have to do.
That's right, talking.
Mr. Mayor.
Because right now,
Mr. Mayor, can I just make one final suggestion? Since the senior center seems to have their policies all together and everything's pretty much self-explanatory, can we give the clerk the option to kind of mirror those policies and bring both policies back to the board? Because some of us were part of the first policies that came to the board, and maybe we can see them. If they could be, they should be the same. They shouldn't be separate. They should be the same. If the clerk can mirror the community center policy towards the same.
Well, the seniors had a senior board, senior advisory council. They came up with those.
And it seems to be working.
Okay.
And it seems to be up to date.
But now
She has a whole closet.
No. The senior centers.
That's what I'm saying.
That's up to them. But their policy.
But it's not working, is what I'm saying. If what we see is
We'll bring it to the board and we'll talk about it once you can make a comparison and kind of bring yourself up to date with what the senior says. And then if we feel that any changes need to be made, we can make them at that time.
So basically what you want to do is enact some type of a sanction that, is it that you want all their stuff out, no locks on any? That's what I'm asking.
I can see her having one of the cabinets, seeing that she is providing a service. However, not all three. But it is perishable food that's being stored in there, and then in one of the same cabinets that she has perishable food, that's where she has the bucket for like her mop bucket. So it's unsanitary. What?
Okay, well I'm just saying if you can come up with some rules, I'm sure we can bring them and sit down and we can,
But the onus should not just be on the one person. I've attempted to talk with you. We've gone through this. I've sat through meetings before with crying and the tirades and all of that. And everybody, not everybody, because I'm not, but a lot of people, they're reluctant to act as if we are responsible for every aspect of the village of Sauk Village, and we cannot let one individual just do what she wants to do. Are you tired, Ms.?
Madam Clerk, okay.
Okay, let me move on.
Okay, then the next one, okay.
My recommendations for the draft journals and meeting materials.
Okay.
People, this one is very, very important. What I propose, because we meet on Tuesday, and a number of trustees have been very apt to let me know that I have 48 hours, so I really have until Sunday to present meeting packets to you, which means I would have until Sunday at 7 o'clock to get you guys meeting packets. However, when I share information with you at 1 o'clock, you inform me that you don't have enough time to read through it because you have to be with your family or you're out of town or you're doing other things. So we have to come up with some type of agreement to make certain that when it's time for us to meet, that there's overall readiness, that you've had sufficient time to read your materials, to get them, and you're prepared. So I'm proposing where minutes are concerned, is for me to start presenting to you minutes at committee meetings, which means that if I submit it to you, that's giving you a whole week to read them. You don't have to give me any feedback at all. You have them, you read them. If you want to give me feedback, you do. If you do not, then when we get to the board meeting, you just don't approve them. But it's not going to be because I've not given you enough time to read them. It's going to be on you to read your minutes and all your other materials. Tonight was a classic example of why I felt that meeting materials need to be addressed and the reason why I asked for them in advance. I asked for our meeting minutes for today's meeting to be in my hands, right? So that I could have them to you for tonight. We had a vendor come before us who said that their presence here at this meeting today is not something that they would write up, but it's a service that they provide. We spent more than 7 to 8 minutes as they tried to figure out which abatement, which tax they were talking about, and making certain that we each had a copy. Had I had the material in advance, it would have been in your packets. So then, when they asked, do you have any questions? If you had questions, you would have been able to ask them because you would have seen them on Friday or today or yesterday, whenever you went through your things. But I'm going to tell you another reason. And I'm going to, and I need you to understand, the reason why I'm going to be so strict and stringent that if I do not have the material, see, I didn't know that they were bringing these today. So they just got, It's usually on the agenda. Right, but I asked for the handouts, the materials. They brought them. But I'm going to tell you one reason why I'm so stringent. Do you remember the last meeting we had December the 10th? When we went through, you guys went through the minutes and you tabled some of the minutes because you said you didn't have enough time to read them? Let me tell you what we did instead. You guys voted on an ordinance, and that ordinance was supposed to have been sent to me that Thursday prior, and it wasn't. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the agenda. Oh, we'll get it to you, we'll get it to you. And I said, okay, in good faith. And guess what? I forgot that we didn't have that ordinance. And now let me tell you, do you know what that ordinance was that you all voted on? Sight unseen? Because the ordinance never got to the packet. You all voted on the levy. The ordinance approving the levy that you had never seen. That, to me, is atrocious. I'm not browbeating anybody, but I'm just letting us know that was very critical.
It was on the agenda, but we didn't get copies.
No.
There was also discussion with the finance director regarding the amount. I don't want it to go down that we just approved something that we did not know anything about. The levy is a levy, it's mandated. Finance director communicated what we needed to do. The actual ordinance might not have been in front of us, but we knew what we were about to do.
You can't vote on the ordinance if you don't have the ordinance in front of you. Just like tonight, we were talking about resolutions. Those resolutions, if I don't get them by noon on Friday, I guarantee you they're not going to be on the board agenda next Tuesday for you guys to vote on. If I don't get those resolutions, someone has to be accountable. Someone. And if it's to be me, it will be me. But we have to have, you have to have what you need to vote on. You may have had the numbers, but what about the language? Look at the language that was in the ordinances today that you are recommended to be changed. So, it needs to be changed. Otherwise, the essence of the ordinance is not the same. We just have to be careful, people. We have to be careful. So therefore, I will be asking you guys for your documents. I thank you.
Okay, is that the
You got the mic right in front.
See, I'm tired. I have a question, and I've asked this before. Is it possible, send those things email, we can have them at the leisure, and we can look at them. It's easier because you have to put them in a Word format anyway. Is it possible to get those things? Email, we talking about new technology. Well, not new, but you know what I mean. Will that be helpful to you? Or it would be helpful to me?
It would be helpful to me, but Trustee, you're the one who said you didn't have the capabilities of copying it, so I would still have been, when I send you documents electronically, you said that you didn't have the wherewithal to make the copy, so I would still have to make the copy.
Paper then, so now that I
Right, so
paper,
I
copy it.
Yeah, so I couldn't do both. I couldn't send it to you, and then
but then I can
the
still,
last minutes that you guys didn't approve, they were sent to you at 1 o'clock that Saturday, that Sunday. And you all still said that you didn't have enough time to read them, so I'm not certain what you really want
I
from me.
like mine's email, and then I could,
But then, as I said, and no one really, everybody did not agree. We can't do one process for you, another process for Trustee Jazinski, another one. It has to be all of the same.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just suggesting. You send them, it has to be typed up in Word anyway. You send them out to whoever to print us copies, so I'm just saying send it to us too. But, I'm just asking. It would be easier for me just to get it and I can print it out because I get paper now.
Okay, I agree. Hopefully we can move on. But I do like the fact that the minutes will be presented with our committee meeting packet. So we have a whole week to review them because giving them to us on a Sunday afternoon and expecting revisions by Monday is kind of impossible. But I love the idea that we'll get them a week ahead of time. Yes, and I do agree that packets should be done well in advance because normally the ordinances that were presented today that were shuffled around for 7 to 8 minutes usually appear on the agenda as an ordinance to abate, because now that's not even on here on the committee agenda. So that's not the clerk's fault. That's the fault of the people who made the presentation. They should have had their packets correctly made. So I agree. So we should all work together to help the clerk get her packets together sooner rather than later. And thank you for having the minutes a week in advance. Can we move on?
So now, one other thing, and I asked for this ordinance a while back, and I'm going to ask for it again, and that is to amend the municipal code for the village clerk's duties and responsibilities. What you have there is what's in our municipal code at this present time, and then it refers you over to state statute, and then in state statute, it states that the basic responsibilities and duties of the village clerk, and then it basically states and whatever else the municipality would have her do. On the backside, very backside, is what's on our website right now, and that is basically what I calculate to be the responsibilities and duties. In fact, it's the duties that I perform on a regular basis on the very backside. Right there, right. It's what I have been doing lately for the last couple of years, whatever. So, I'm asking that we change our ordinance, the code, to include what I do, but then there's another segment that needs to be changed that talks about the monies that are supposed to be turned into the village clerk. I've mentioned this before. The village clerk does not accept any money. I don't even take the dollar when I notarize information for people. So I do not collect any money, and that really needs to come out of our code. Because that's not talking about the clerk collector, it's talking about the village clerk.
There's a lot of spots in those ordinances that refer to the clerk, like building permits and occupancy, all that.
So
the clerk is never done. So those should probably, I mean, there's a lot of ordinances that refer to her doing the
different
that
things.
She does not do.
So we just really need to review that, you know, and just get our ordinances up together, up to par. Okay? So I don't know where we're going to go with that one other than just discussion. But is that something, Trustee Todd, that we can work on together? Sure. You want me to send it or you going to send it? I'm just asking. We'll get together. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, next item, kind of self-explanatory, the resolution for the meetings, official meetings for this year, for corporate authorities. It's self-explanatory. If you have any questions about it, please get them to me before Friday. If not, then this will be put on to be voted on at the next board meeting for the meeting times. As always, if we need to call special meetings, or if we don't, if I don't see a need for a committee meeting, because I don't like to not have board. I think our board meetings, because that's when we vote our money out. So, but I don't like to cancel board meetings. But if we have to have a special meeting, fine. If we don't have to have a special meeting, then quite naturally, you know. But I think in all, I think I went over this with the clerk. I think I only took out 2 right now, but as time goes on, I think there may be a few more.
Well, let me just ask you this, because I see you took out the 7th and the 1st of December. You got July 7th?
Right.
I don't know why you wouldn't put it in there and you can always cancel it.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The first and the first and the...
July 7th and December 1st.
Oh, July 7th.
And
Okay,
you,
yeah. Yes, okay, go ahead.
The reason why the first was taken out is because the Thursday and Friday prior to that is Thanksgiving. Those 2 days are Thanksgiving. So therefore, when would you have an opportunity to receive your meeting package so that you could be prepared for that Tuesday?
what about July 7th?
July 7th, I didn't think, I mean, it was right after July 4th. I didn't see a need. Usually we're kind of light in the summertime, but if it calls for it, as I stated, we can always have one. But those are the only 2 times that I felt that we could.
This is
National Night Out, August. That's why that's like.
If I was going to have time off for a holiday, I would prefer December 22nd if it was me, but
who?
December 22nd? That's 2 days
Well,
before Christmas Eve.
But that's a board meeting.
Yeah. But
Okay,
still,
I mean, but we can always, I can always do that. That's not a problem. They're like we didn't
why
have.
can't we just leave them all in and cancel if we don't have business?
Well, right now, this gives anybody a chance if they want to do something that they can plan ahead of time. If you plan on going somewhere and say, okay, well, I can plan around, because some people plan around the 5th Tuesday. That we're not going to have a meeting. So therefore, you know, some people, you only have that twice a year. So this can kind of give you, you know, if you want to plan around 4th of July, you don't have to be back until a certain point. Yeah, well,
right. That's what I'm talking about.
So I'm just saying that's why I didn't do that. That's why I only did 2. Instead of this year, I think we did 3 or 4. Well, last year.
I think just like you said, if there's a need for it.
This time holiday. Okay. That will be on the agenda for next week. Okay, trustee Todd.
Okay, what you have before you is the amendment to the treasurer's salary. So it went from 14,000 to back to 6,000. And the only thing that was added in, because trustee Brewer wanted this added in, was they will furnish a surety bond and the sum to be approved by the Board of Trustees. So that's it. Section 3 of this is the only thing that was added, and what was amended was the salary.
So, the question I had was that, what is that sum? We need to kind of talk about that.
Can't hear you.
In the ordinance, we need that number.
What number would you like to see?
Number 4.
The number for the surety
Well, I
bond?
mean, it was trustee Brewer's suggestion that this goes in there, so I want to hear what she has to say. But we need to come up with something and put there in time for the ordinance. We can't leave it blank.
I do believe the language we put in there first, it was like started at 50,000, and I don't think it's supposed to go over 2.5. I don't have it with me, so
2,000 isn't enough. Yeah, I thought, if I could be mistaken, I thought it was 2 billion. That's what I thought.
And it's supposed to, it started at 50 and it goes up to 2 point,
Yeah, I think 2 million is a fair number.
Yeah.
But I also want to see, and because right now, Mr. Finch is our treasurer, we have to see what his says, because if we put a number higher than what he is, technically he can't be our treasurer anymore. So we should see what his says. I think his says 2 million. So I think 2 million is a fair number, but I would like to see his.
I agree we need a figure in there, but I don't want to see this go on the agenda next week until there's more discussion. Like, has there ever been a surety bond for the treasurer before? What was that before?
That's a Sauk Village code that it.
So what was it before though? If it's code, that means it's happened in the past. What was it in the past? I don't want to just throw a figure out. So I think that Mr. Finch should probably weigh in on the amount and bring this back. I don't think it needs to be approved next week, in my opinion.
All right, the next item, trustee Grant. Village vehicle take home policy.
All right, so this policy here is something that I thought would be kind of good for us. So we haven't had anything like this in place as far as I can ever remember or know of. And to me, what this policy does is for people who do have a take-home vehicle, it takes the liability off of the village in case something happens and puts it on that person who is responsible for that vehicle. So there's like 16 or 17 points that kind of stipulate the do's and don'ts of a take-home vehicle. I think it's pretty straightforward. And I think that, anybody who does have a take-home vehicle shouldn't have a problem with it. The only thing I would add to this is a third page per se that says, I blank sign your name, agree that I have read and understand this policy and I adhere to it. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions on any of the 17 points, let me know. If not, I think it is pretty straightforward.
Any question? Okay. You said the last page would be a signature page, right?
Item number 14, the assignment of a village take-home vehicle may result in taxable income to the employee pursuant to IRS rules. Okay, so obviously there are rules in place. Some of these employees need to take their cars home and they should not be taxed because they're emergency services. So obviously there is a rule in place that will cover those employees.
Correct. So I think any public safety officer, fire chief, police chief, those people do not count towards this. And then also, section 14, or item 14, section 2, the last sentence says the financial blank. It should say the financial department will calculate. That's all. I just want to add that one word. I just said
I'm sorry.
We're having another.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. Just input that. I'll input that one word and resend it to you. Yeah. Or if you want to input it, that's fine. But I think I sent a PDF, so I'll send it to you again.
Is there any language in there about monitoring the mileage when they take on the
So I think it's number 8. So you shouldn't be using it for take home, personal reasons, right? I mean, unless it's on a minimal basis. Like, don't you know, you shouldn't be driving to Aldi, then you drive into, you know, down the street to your friend's house. You know, but if you have a nigga stop on your way home, I think something within reason is okay, but not excessive. And I mean, that's up to that person who is responsible for that vehicle to kind of, you know, I guess use good judgment on that. Yes, hold on.
You're looking to change what they're talking about now. Just 10-mile rule? Isn't there an ordinance where they can drive here for personal use? Fire chief, police chief, so-and-so, for personal use. Within 10 miles. 10 miles of the border.
I never heard of that. You saying that they can drive if it's 10 miles?
Like our former resident director used to drive his squad to work in case there was a call he could leave. That's what we're saying.
No.
And you got two public works supervisors to take care of your home.
Public work?
You got two supervisors to take care
They
of your
should. We had talked about that when I was frustrated. On the foreman takes his vehicle home, but not the, I'm sorry. The director takes his vehicle home, but not the foreman, no.
two foreman takers.
I understand what you're saying, but they shouldn't be. Well, they are. I know. I'm saying, no, they should be. We had talked about that back, oh my goodness, that's been a while. You know, because what need do they have to, because there's only one foreman on, how do you put it, on call at any given time, not both. So, you know, and when they come here, they gotta go by the garage anyway. They gotta go to the, yeah, they gotta go to the garage anyway. They're not gonna go right to the water main, right?
So if nobody has any questions or objections to this, I'd like to put this on the agenda for the next week to be voted on. And then, and this already has been talked to with the village administrator and the finance director, but they will also sign off on it, and the mayor as well. And then the person who actually is taking home the vehicle, they'll understand and sign it agree to this, correct? Yeah, I actually already had, I just need to send it to you. Anybody, budget department head? No, I'm saying anybody who has a take-home vehicle that is not public safety. So.
The foreman's not allowed to take it. I know, yeah. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to use, they're not supposed to take them. But I'm just saying that they do, so, okay.
On your number 5, the accident, I think you might want to include in there, if they have an accident with the village vehicle.
They're responsible?
They're responsible, but they need to be drug tested.
What do you mean by, hold it back up, what do you mean by they're responsible?
You can't do drug testing now, it's gonna be a whole new ballgame.
What do you mean by responsible? What do you mean that they're responsible for what?
All incidents involving village vehicles must be reported to the law enforcement officers. So you're saying they're responsible. They're responsible. If they're in a village vehicle, okay, who's responsible?
Whoever caused the accident is responsible.
No, but in other words, they have to report it, yes.
Yeah, I mean.
But they're not responsible, but our insurance pays the insurance pays.
Yeah, the insurance is gonna pay for it, you know, if we were in the wrong, well, the village person in the vehicle was in the wrong, they were in the wrong.
What you're saying is that they're responsible to report the accident.
Oh,
absolutely. And proper procedure will be followed.
Correct.
Okay, that's what it says, or should say. They're responsible to report the accident.
Yes.
And the thing that you're talking about, usually if there is an accident, whoever the supervisor or the person in charge of that particular person, be it if it's a department head or whatever, you're saying, which makes sense, they can be drug tested. They should be drug tested at that time.
So they're not drinking.
At that time, not don't go wait tomorrow, you know, at that time they should be sent in for a drug test.
I thought we already had that in place, but we should have that in place because the new law does not exclude, it does not allow you to come to work
impaired. Yes.
Yes, and if you get in an accident and it's in your system, then
there's a problem. Your fault. I'll include that as well, and I'll send it back to you with a third page for the employee to sign.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Other updates, requests.
Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I actually put it in writing so we can address this at another time. But going through the website and seeing the amount of changes that need to be done, I noticed several open positions for employment other than the 2 that I'm aware of, Finance Director and Parks and Recreation Director. There's several out there. They're old, they're outdated. The deadline dates are well expired. I would like an update on, and I think that the village administrator is going to be providing this at the next meeting, on the finance director and the parks and recreation director. So I'm looking for an update on that. As far as the Sauk Talk, we need to find somebody to bring a newsletter or Sauk Talk back. And I know that I spoke to the interim finance director. We're getting closer to the water billing monthly mailing, where we can insert a newsletter in there. So I just wanted an update, but I spoke with him about that. The Code Red, I have yet to get a ping. I wasn't part of the board that approved Code Red, so I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to be notified about. But I'd like to know if there has been any notifications and how much we're paying for that, and is it something we want to continue in the next budget? And the last thing is the FOIA. I wanted an update on who's handling the FOIAs and to make sure that they're being handled properly. This here, basically, for a page and a half, is just all the website changes I feel need to be made. I would be more than happy to take on this website, updating it to the point where when we do decide to have a different website, that our website's brought up to date. I've offered. I'm waiting for someone to reach out to me and tell me that they want me to work on this. I've done it before. There's several notes on here about what I've just talked about, so please, would everybody just, I also emailed it to you. If you have any thoughts or comments, can you please just email me individually? Thank you.
Okay, before your officer is the village manager. So that's, you guys know that already. I mean, that's,
well, it was never stated, but
but the last FOIA officer is not here, so he had nobody else to do it but the village manager. So that was no problem. But I'll have to have a talk about the website or Sauk Talk or whatever being added on, because I know at one time you had asked or talked about public relations, or there was something else that you wanted to include. I didn't get the paperwork on that, but anyway.
This is the paperwork. It's in the memo. If you read it, it's in its entirety. This is the paperwork that I'm asking to have my committee committed to be also ad hoc, public relations, website, and Sauk Talk.
That's in, you got that word?
That's in the paperwork I gave you all tonight. That is my request to be able to move forward so that we can communicate with the residents better. And as far as the newsletter and Sauk Talk, and as far as updating the website, which a lot of things are still on there from 2 or 3 years ago that need to be taken off. So I'll just wait for further direction.
Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, set that up already. Okay. If anybody's still left.
No. We sleep.
Going to public comment. All questions and comments must be directed to the mayor. Each speaker may comment on any matter pertaining to the village business. Each speaker is allowed one opportunity to speak for 3 minutes and may not engage in debate, comment, rebuttals, or replies. And I'll answer all questions at the end of answering the questioning period. Please state your name when you come up.
Judy Cass here. There's a lot of things that need to be said and things that need to be started out right on this new year. One of the things is I'm really, I've heard yesterday and today how people, board members, are tired of residents stating facts that aren't completely true. That includes our police chief, who feels that having a scanner is not healthy and we don't tell the entire story. Well, I'd like to know from every one of you up there, because you're all guilty. How do we tell you anything or have a story straight when you tell us nothing? There is no transparency in this village. Everybody promised when they ran. They said there was a major problem with transparency, and if they made it, they would work on getting transparency transparent. It's not happening. It hasn't happened. We keep asking questions over and over and over again and get no answers. I've asked more than once, where is the $800,000 that's supposed to be in the special bank account? Is it there? I've heard yes over and over and over, but I've asked trustees, have you actually seen a bank statement that shows that that money is there in entirety? And they've answered me, no. So where's the transparency in that? Why can't you tell us? If it's there, what are you afraid of? Show the bank statement. If it's not there, you better have some answers. We've asked multiple times. Tanya sits up there and the ordinances. Okay, the ordinances sound great. Linda spends a lot of time with her committee making these ordinances. But the ordinances aren't being followed. People are living in single-family residence. The property's been inspected. They found problems with the property. Work is being done inside. Jackhammers being used. But there's no permits showing. And some people have permits. And they don't, the permits are given before anything is done. Why aren't they done all the same way? Why does one resident in this town get away with not paying a water bill for well over a year, who has garbage pickup every week? That's part of my tax money that's paying for his garbage. Why is all this stuff done and shoved under a rug? Why can't everybody see the same thing? What happened to Felco? We sat here and we listened about Felco and why Felco had to be retired, but that was a lie. Felco was on duty a long time before
Ms. Cass?
He was predicted sick.
Ms. Cass, your time is up.
My what?
Time. She called time about...
I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Okay.
Still like to know why Felco's not back.
Pat Couch. On that note with Falco, we that do have scanners, we hear what's going on. We don't yell and carry on about what's happening because those officers have a job to do. Now, just this past week, there was 2 incidents, one night and the next night also, that they needed a canine. They had to call 2 other entities to see if there was canines available. What are we doing to get a canine? If we're not going to get one, let us know. Because Ford Heights had a canine, they were going to bring their canine. Will County had to bring a canine. That dog needs to be here. There's drugs in this town. Last night there was 2 break-ins. They could have tracked that individual that took that money bag or money, can't think what's wrong.
Cash register.
Yeah, cash register. But no, it threw it over the fence, or who knows where that went. They could have tracked that if we had a canine or 2 canines. Code Red, I signed up for it, I haven't heard a word. There's several things. Transparency? No, we don't see it. But these are things that the residents would like to know. And when will it happen? This is the beginning of a new year. Let's start it out right, for crying out loud. Let's get the help. We need help on the dogs in this town that have no licenses, there's just so many things that need to be done. And yet, the main thing that we're sitting back here in the back, and we can't hear you, trustee. We cannot hear you. And whenever we ask you to use a mic, you're passing it back and forth. Find some blooming money to get the microphones, for crying out loud. We don't want to sit back there and guess at what you're saying. We're getting older. Some of us can't hear as well. And I can't hear what she just said 1 minute, but I saw her mouth moving. So get some microphones, please.
Frank Williams here.
codes and things that we was having.
Can't hear you.
That's right, Mr. Mike.
I was listening to the codes and things. One question that I have, if we are going to do rental property, are they going to be handicapped patients? I don't mean the ramp, but what I mean the outlets and things like that in the houses. That's going to be in there. The second thing is that I don't understand why is it that when something happened in this village, police related, why do the trustees have to hear it from somebody else and not from the police themselves? That we used to have, when something happened, the police officer, the chief of police will call every trustee, and that trustee had to respond. Derek, you know I'm telling the truth about that. So why can't we have that back again? These are things that we individuals do. The second thing is sure about the food in the senior building. We had put something in place before that. Anything in there after 3 days was supposed to be removed. So in doing something like that, it's not being hard, being treated to her, but what it is that we got rid of the mice once before, but if you continue to do that, they'll be right back in there. The other thing is that, it's kind of late. And I know we had a lot to talk about tonight, but, for the benefit of us who's here right now, especially me, I like to kind of be in bed about it right now. So let's see, can we cut these meetings down a little bit, okay? Thank you.
Okay, I want to say every month, the treasurer gives a report to the trustees of what is available in the bank and what is protected and what's not protected. I don't have a report in front of me, but I have it on my desk, and I know that he gives it to the trustee because I see that each trustee gets one to know what money is available and what's not available. And it shows every month $800,000. It shows the line of credit of unprotected, in other words, unprotected money. Now, it also shows how much money is in the TIF, which is a protective entity. So if anyone wants to see the bank statements, I'm sure the bank statements are available. We just don't disseminate them each and every month, but the treasurer does show you the ledger where it shows that money is there and he reports on it. So it's not a matter of if it's gone anywhere, it hasn't been touched. Even the line of credit that we have has not been touched. So to say that you don't know where it's at, believe me, it's there. Transparency is transparency. I mean, if you feel that, then I appreciate you coming up and asking these questions because they that show that you care, and I appreciate that. I don't know about the scanner part of it. I'm not understanding that someone said you shouldn't have a scanner, but that's your house, that's your scanner. I mean, I don't, if you want to sit there and listen, there's nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. Water bills, yes, we've been working on that for quite a while. There are some people that do have water bills that I looked at them, and that's what we've been working on since I've been mayor, that we used to have in excess of about, I would say, almost $1 million of unpaid water bills. Now it's down to maybe 25,000, 30,000. It took a year to make that happen. A lot of people got upset about it. It was a lot of people. They got mad, but we had to start cutting them off because as we stated just now, and I'm glad someone did say that, because if you don't pay your water bill and when you haven't had it cut off, we're still picking up your garbage. We haven't paid us for it. And you still, people that have their water still on and haven't paid for it. So obviously they must know that you can't shut them off and we can't shut them off. Because I would not, unless I knew for sure, I would not pay my water bill, no, if I come home tomorrow, I don't have water. So obviously they must know that you can't be shut off. So that's what we're going after. They're called digs, and we're going after to do that. in the Public Works has started doing that, and it takes a minute, but it's it is working, and yes, we still have a few people that needs to be done. The chief explained, when we retired Falco, he gave an explanation. He said here at the committee meeting and told everybody why Falco was retired and that whole explanation. It was due to health reasons and other things. So I mean, have we got another one yet? Not yet, but they do use other municipalities' canines if they need to, and you know, it's a hard thing to say what the dog had caught the person that did the burglaries. It's unfortunate that burglaries happen. I definitely don't like, it's not a good sign in the village when you have businesses being burglarized. But I don't see a dog would stop that burglary. If a person wants to go in and knock a window out and run in there and get a cash register and run back out, you can't stop that no more than you can stop somebody from coming up and shooting someone at that particular time. You can deter by doing things, but you can't stop it, and I've always said that. But will the dog itself stop crime in the city? I don't see that, but the chief is looking into probably bringing in a fresh dog. But right now, the dog, as it stated, it might have fell out from its health problem that the dog has, running after somebody and just fall out because the dog had health reasons, had health problems. Rental property being handicapped accessible on the inside. Well, right now we're having problems with even trying to get in some of these rental properties. They don't want the village to, you know, and that's the problem I have. That we should be more stringent on rental properties because these people they deserve just the same thing that you deserve. If you're not a rental, you take care of it. They deserve the same upkeep and the same inspections as you would want in your own house. Just because they're renting doesn't mean that they should live substandardly. And as far as the food to senior center that was stated, that's why we're going to go through. Open the cabinets back up again, and it's going to be talked about. It's probably going to be another point of contention because we have to go through that. I did it when I first became mayor at the time because some things needed to be looked at because we did have a problem. Well, it's time to do it again. And that's all I have to say on that part. Do we need an executive session?
Yeah. Yes, we do. I have a simple question. It should take a few minutes. Personnel and any litigation.
Okay. I'll accept the motion to recess the executive session. Moved by Trustee Todd, second by Trustee Williams.
It doesn't matter who makes the motion in a second, as long as we get it.
Yeah. No, for minutes.
Didn't Trustee Todd make the motion?
Yes.
No, she didn't. No, she said, I asked her, did she need one? I asked anybody that need one. She said she did. I said, I'll accept the motion. No. Trustee Todd said she moved and Trustee Williams said second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go.